Christian, you can press the button anytime. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's April 25th, about 7 p.m., and this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Wareham School Committee. We will start tonight, as usual, with public participation. Is there anybody who would like to address the committee? Moving to the next item, we have good news. At Mr. Flaherty's request, we have especially good news, and I was quick to say yes to this request to have the Deacon School represented by Principal Panarisi and Jennifer McCarran, who were the principals behind the extraordinary effort to produce a new playground. So the floor is all yours, and thank you for being here.
Sorry to interrupt. After I put this microphone on, you want to start again?
Take two.
Now it's going to be even shorter because you know I'm going to edit it as I move.
No. You take your time.
We wanted to be able to take the time to thank the community and the business owners and the children for raising funds, and of course Ms. McCarran and her committee for the incredible job of raising a very large sum of money, close to $30,000 in a relatively short period of time for this process, and for our PTA as well for helping to support it. I mean, the community members that did not have children in the system also came out to help us on our build, so you can see that our community is invested in the school district and in helping us reach our goals, and they most certainly did with this playground. We thought we'd show you the beginning. Our playground needed repair piece by piece, and as the pieces wore off, we weren't being able to replace them because either they didn't make the parts anymore or it wasn't safe to replace them. So we're going to have this quick slideshow so you can see where the demolition took place. We had to get rid of the old, and then you can see the
Hold
new.
that thought 1 second. I want to make sure that Christian has got the camera working so that people at home can see those wonderful pictures.
And while he's doing that, I did send an invite to Ann LaVoy, to the head of the PTA. I didn't hear back from her, but she was very instrumental in this as well.
Yes, I know she was. Thank you, Chris. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hopefully this will resume. So this is where we took down the equipment that was in the most in need of being taken down. And as you can well imagine, it didn't go in easy and didn't come out too easy. And all of this huge equipment and the people that did this was all voluntaries. So out it came, and picnic tables were donated, put together, because now we needed some type of entertainment structures inside the playground, so we put chess pieces out there for the children, and we had different types of games that were more table-type games because we didn't have the equipment. And these are the children helping to kind of spruce things up a bit. And this is still part of the demolition, but we're trying to kind of get the idea that we're going to be putting more things in. So that was the existing structure for 700 students to play on. That's our sign. This is the start. All these pieces were packed in plastic, so the first piece we had to do was unpack all of the plastic. There were different stations of the structure being put together. So here was one station, the slide was another station, And it was really kind of incredible. I was put on bulwark, that everybody just kind of automatically knew what to do and worked together so wonderfully. And the gentleman that came to help us, he coordinates this effort, he is the salesperson representative from the company, said that we put this structure up in record time with no problems whatsoever because of the cooperation and the great support that we had from the community. So it was really funny because while they were drilling the holes, there's Miss Miranda with her shovel because she was put on digging duty.
Yeah, but she's holding a shovel.
We decided to
Local
spruce
digging.
up everything else
Local
as well.
5.
Yes, Miss McCannon demanded to be the first one down the slide. And what we did is we put it up because, the signs up afterwards, because the cement needed to set for 4 to 6 hours. We were worried about that. And the gentleman told us it's not the children coming onto the playground that you have to worry about once you put it up, it's the adults wanting to use it. So we started to chuckle with that. So we kind of ensured to make sure that it stayed.
I've already tested it.
I was trying to, but.
There was a rumor that a certain parent wouldn't get out of the tractor.
Yes, that's true. That's true, because you wouldn't give anybody else a turn. We hope the children don't follow that suit in using the playground. There are bongos back here, so what we tried to do is, because we got a CVS grant for inclusive playground, we tried to make sure that each child's need was taken care of, so even children that have limited physical ability would be able to enjoy the playground. And that's it. So one of the things that we've noticed is after school, there are parents out there now with children, and it's not because they're playing soccer and it's not because they're playing baseball. They bring their children to the playground and they talk with other parents, and it's become a little community place meeting. And so all of the children from the entire town are able to use these facilities. And as I'm looking out the window today and I'm seeing parents, I'd never seen parents other than my volunteers out on that playground. I realized for the first time that that playground is more than just a place for children to play and have recreation. It was a great positive meeting place for parents to be able to talk to one another and for their children to be safe and enjoy. So we'd like to thank the community again and for all the hard work that Ms. McCarron and her committee has done. She worked tirelessly. She still works tirelessly to make sure there are going to be fundings there to either add on or to maintain the playground. Thank you.
What can be said? Great event. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Sweat,
Yes, please.
Is it possible to get that same committee together to fix the high school roof?
I don't know. We're also, I forgot to add, we're going to have a thank you spaghetti dinner free of charge for our volunteers, and Mr. Sweat, we'd expect you to be there because you helped as well, so. He was also on digging.
I was a minimal participant, but I will certainly try to be there.
Him and Anna shared the same shovel.
And Mr. Flaherty
A lot of
as well.
shovel holding, I didn't see any digging.
No, he did.
All
Otherwise.
all kidding aside, that's a great job by everyone. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much for giving us the
Mr.
time to share that.
Yes.
I just had one question. Can you share with this committee as well as the community some of the some examples of how you went about fundraising for this? Because I think that is some great lessons that can be learned across the board with some of the things that community members would like to see at some of the other schools or even in the community.
Well, it's, and I have to say, she'll get mad at me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Jen would get excited. She'd say, I'm going to have a hat day, and she'd make $75 from the hat day. We have $75, and she would just get so excited over the fact that she has $75. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying she needs $40,000, and if we're doing $75, you know, this is not going to go very fast. And we started filling out some grants. We had United Way support us in, not so much in a monetary way, but in a supporting way to advertise and have different events. But really, I have to be honest with you, it's the diligence and the perseverance of this woman to continue to fundraise, to sell candy bars. We had Dorothy Cox's wrap the golden ticket inside our candy bars. We sold the candy bars. We got a $2,500 grant from CBS. We did a lot of fundraising. The spaghetti dinners, which we actually started out as a fundraiser and then turned over to a community collaboration because we found out it was just such a great thing for families to get together. But those raised money, the dances. But it was a slow process of constant and diligent fundraising. Every single month, there was something going on, and we took donations. We sold the beads down at the store, the Wareham.
Old company store?
Yes, the playground beads. Anything that we could do to make money, we did.
How long did the fundraising efforts take from start to finish?
I'm going to say 15 months.
That's not
And we
bad.
started at zero. And one of the larger contributions came from one of our own staff members. It was in excess of $11,000.
Wow.
But that was the largest
Okay.
one
That
that
was
we
gonna be
got.
my
We didn't get
question.
anything, bigger than that, so. And probably raised close to about $30,000.
Thank you.
But it was piecemeal, but it was consistent and it was diligent and it was every single month.
It seems like there was just a lot of focus going on. We have a goal in mind. We're going to achieve that goal, and no matter what, we're going to do whatever it takes to
she's
get there. And
unstoppable.
that's.
And the kids wanted it, you know? So
Well, we saw by the thank you notes, that was wonderful that you followed up with the kids to actually do thank you notes in any way that can, those notes get into the newspapers, just to be able to thank some of the community members that you might not even know of that came out. That would be great.
we
So then
did
people
that,
know.
we should do that.
I never saw so many awesomes.
We put a list out to the Courier and the Wareham Week of all the business partners that helped us along the way. Special thanks to the Abbey Glass Stop and Shop
Cozies,
and Cozies and
They did the food.
Shaw's
Home Depot.
and Home Depot and Lowe's. But and
There's more. Just
there's lots
so much
more, and we have a listing, and again, it's printed in the newspaper, and those people will be, at our dinner as well, and they'll be recognized in a different way there. But it was just wonderful.
What's your
It
next
really was.
project?
Our next project?
Well, this success, 15 months from now, all of a sudden, have a whole
We'd
new
like
wing.
swings. I mean, we would like to add some swings on. We think that would be a complete, and we're looking at a lower age group playground, something that's probably more suited to kindergarten and first grade, but just a little separate structure maybe for them. Those are the two areas with the playground.
Great. Thank you.
And a school sign. I'd like a school sign. I'm not going to give up on that either. I think I'm going to put her on that next.
Smart move. This is school sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
Our
for
pleasure to
having us.
have you here. Thank you, Mike. Next on the agenda is good news. Any committee members have anything they'd like to share? Dr. Rabinovich?
Yes, I've got a few things. I have from Joan Siemens an announcement about student awards for bullying awareness contest. Mrs. Christine Quimby, study skills teacher at Minot Forest, once again had students participate in the Mark Bullying Awareness Contest through Bridgewater State College. I am pleased to announce we once again have several students who won awards. They are first grade poster, first place to, looks like,
So Reniana.
thank you, Reniana
Works for
Dillon. Fifth grade poster, second placed, Talia Messia and McKenna Tavares Platt. And fifth grade poster, honorable mention to Michael Sylvia, Cameron Osborne, and Adrian Sullivan. Mrs. Quimby, the students, and their families are invited to take part in an award ceremony on Monday, May 1st, 2012, at 10 a.m. in the Moakley Auditorium at Bridgewater State College. The winning entries will be displayed at the Maxwell Library until April 22nd. So that's the first. Second, I attended with Mr. Palladino today the 24th Annual South Coast Conference Academic All-Star inductee banquet. And Wareham was well represented by 5 students: Dennis Stephen Sylvia Jr., Brian Michael Williams, Douglas Richard Geist, Twinkle Patel, I'm going to leave out the middle one, Tara Elaine Dictiamasso. All of these are 5 top students. One of them will be our valedictorian. They are all excellent students. We had a nice conversation with them, had lunch with them. They received their awards, and I'll pass this picture around. It was held today, and this is the thing. So that was a very nice thing that happened today.
And one of them is an excellent tennis player who won his tennis match today.
And I'd also like to announce that the Foundation for Wareham Education has awarded 6 more awards that will be given out at their next fundraiser. The awardees will be Kathleen Lyons, continuation of the Franklin Peace Team; Craig Berryall, the study of the crested geckos; Kathy Minkle-Moore, increasing homeschool communication through Breaking Bread; Amy Dion, field trip to New York City for Wareham High School Art Department; and Sarah Haskell, students working together to create a piece of art for the school. Total of $2,580 will be awarded, and this is the 3rd time that the foundation has awarded approximately $2,500. So within 2 years, we've passed out about $7,500 to teachers for enhancing their curriculum. And if you'd like to mark your calendars, the foundation's next event, called A Taste of Wareham, will be held on May 18th from 6 to 10 p.m. Ticket prices are $35 each, or for a table of 10, $300. And it's going to be at the Tahonet Market barn that's next to the market, across from it. They have a new function room, and so we'll be having it there. And various restaurants have donated food, so we will having food from the Narrows and from Lindsay's and from Bailey's, and hopefully some other restaurants as well that they have donated for the event.
Dr. Brenner, she said 6 to 10?
Excuse me?
You said 6 to 10?
6 to 10.
Thanks.
Oh, and we also have some student musicians that will be playing that evening as well.
Excellent. Any other good news from the committee?
I just have 2 things. One, at the Hammond School today, my son came home and basically said that he had an amazing time listening to the symphony that came into the school and played. I also had a chance to talk with some of the administrators from that school, saying that some of the half-day kindergarteners actually came in early to take part in it, and just how much they enjoyed it, and there was dancing going on. And so I thought that was great that we're continuing to, in the spirit of what I think first started off in DCAS, to continue bringing music into our schools with the budget cuts and, limiting what our students actually get for music and art in the classroom. This is a great opportunity to bring in different musicians to really open up their world to new kinds of music. So I thought that was a piece of good news. And then the only other thing is I want to thank the citizens of Wareham for coming out the last 2 nights at town meeting. I've been attending for 3 years, and just the number of folks that showed up last night and the night before was amazing. I also feel it's important just for me personally, not from the whole entire school committee, to say thank you for supporting one of the articles, supporting it that it should go on the ballot to let the rest of the citizens of Wareham vote. Again, this is for technology and textbooks, something that I feel passionately about. I hope Chairman Sweat talks a little bit about his time at the National Association of School Boards, because when it comes to technology in Wareham, we're just doing our children a disservice. And so, again, I just want to thank the town meeting voters last night for agreeing, or at least supporting this to go on the ballot, and I really do hope that we have a good showing, if it does go on the ballot, that this is something that will be passed and we'll get more money into our schools for technology. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee member? Jessica?
I just wanted to say that tomorrow night, the Wareham High School Band is performing their spring concert in the auditorium at the high school. It's starting at 7 for those who would like to go. The drama will be performing their play on May 10th, 11th, and 12th. I can't recall, I think it's Pirates of Penzance. I know it's about pirates, so it sounds very interesting. I know I'll be there. And then also the dreaded MCAS and AP tests are coming up. Maybe not good news, but news.
The dreaded.
It'll be good news if we do well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it
The
won't
students.
Then it won't be dreaded.
Thank you,
Students, it's a little
Jessica.
stressful.
Any other committee member? I think I'll take this opportunity to just briefly talk about it, because I think it mostly is good news. First, as a point of clarification with respect to what Rhonda said about the debt exclusion was passed, I share Rhonda's appreciation for the support that it was given. I want it to be clearly understood, I know the moderator said this, but in case it was not clear, it is necessary to go to town meeting, because town meeting is the only body that can authorize the borrowing of the money involved in the debt exclusion. So the next step, now that we've authorized the borrowing, is for the Board of Selectmen to say that it's okay to ask the citizens to approve the actual decision to borrow. So in other words, we have said, if you make the decision that you want to do this, it's okay to borrow that amount of money. And that will be true for, with the citizens' approval, for 3 other debt exclusions plus the override. But the override does not include borrowing. The override is associated with a permanent increase in the tax rate. I want it clearly understood about that. The override is necessary to cover this school year's budget in order to compensate for the fact that we have been forced, because of lack of revenue, to bring the budget down to about $2 million less than we felt was a minimum level. Some people have asked, and I want to be clear about this, what that means for the next budget cycle. And what it means is the town now has, assuming the $780,000 is passed, $780,000 worth of additional revenue coming in every year indefinitely, unless, of course, an underride is passed. It goes into the general fund. It is not specifically, as is, and there's no money that is specifically allocated to the schools. But I know Dr. Rabinovich and I share the same feeling that it establishes a new base from which we can build in order to support the schools. But it also obviously will require diligence on the part of the citizens to make sure that that new base is honored, and that the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator and the voters see it that way on an annual basis. But it is, or would be, if it was approved, an important step to getting better funding. The last thing I'll say, and I'll say this pretty quickly, is at the National School Board conference that I attended over the last 3 days, you should be very proud of this school district in a number of ways and concerned in only one way. What I came away feeling was that the school committee, the work we have done on the organization and the instruction in the schools, specifically the instructional leaders and response to intervention, and also the work we have done with respect to the evaluation of our educators, is cutting edge. There were literally 2 presentations that were made. One was made from Ohio and another was made from Illinois, and they were supposed to be the pinnacle of this kind of thing with respect to how they organize themselves and how they evaluate their educators. And at the end of it, I went up to the presenter and I said, all sounded good, but you should know what we're doing in Wareham. And one of them said, wow, that would be a great idea. I hope we can do that because it would relieve the burden on the principals because we're finding all the work we're doing almost impossible. That was a principal talking. And the other one, the suburb of Chicago, said, that's exactly where we're trying to go. So we are literally where they want to be, and they were presenting nationally as something that everybody should follow. So in that sense, I feel very good about what we are doing in Wareham in many respects. The one place where I confess I was somewhat embarrassed was technology. There are extraordinary things being done around this country with the use of technology in instruction, in curriculum, in data collection, you name it, it's being done, and we're nowhere. Now, that's not so much a criticism, and if it was, it would be thrown right back at myself since I'm part of this team. But it's also a reflection of the fact that, frankly, it takes some money and resources to do that kind of technological advancement. But what was very clear to me was that that investment pays off big time, not only in terms of the productivity of the staff and the advancement of the children in terms of technological awareness, but some of the data that was presented, multi-year data, suggested that the technology investment was also paying off in learning. Kids were simply taking this technology, being more engaged by this technology, and the results were just going like this. There's a district in, which I'm going to talk to you more about, Jan. There's a district in Mooresville, North Carolina, which had a pretty average result of in the 70s on their particular MCAS-like version, and they brought it up into the 90s since they've done this technological advancement. It happens to be Mac Airs, laptops, but other people are using iPads. There's a wide variety of technology experiments, although some of them are far from experiments now. Some of them have many years behind them. The bottom line is we're way behind. And as a matter of fact, this will be a surprise to Dr. Rabinovich, and no one should surprise the superintendent, but if the $780,000 is approved on the ballot, to me there's an open question as to how we spend that $780,000 in terms of balance between technology and curriculum. Fortunately, the vote, we have said it's technology and curriculum. I'm not suggesting we deviate from that approval.
You mean the 340?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
780 was.
Yeah, don't be messing with the 780.
You were making me real nervous.
Yeah, I know.
That was
all of us.
That was wishful thinking. Sorry, 780 is the override for the teacher to avoid teacher layoffs. 341 is the technology curriculum money. But how we spend that 341 will be an interesting decision-making process, and I look forward to that process, and I'll talk more about that later in the committee assignments. So I think that's enough. I know we've got an important agenda, but
Can
yes.
I just, since you brought up about town meeting and clarifications.
Yes.
So this afternoon, John Foster and I had a telephone conference with somebody from MSBA to clarify about the $575,000 for the study that has to be done for Minor Forest. And the clarification is you have to borrow the full amount, but as soon as you have a bill to be paid, there is a 14-day, there's a special way of getting them paid that we will send 2 people to get trained for. and then as soon as we have an invoice for something, there is a 14-day turnaround. So, let's say the architect gives us a $50,000 bill, you get to send that in, and we will get our 60% back within 14 days. That then goes to pay off what you have. So at the end of the day, you're not paying the interest on the $575 for the length of the project the way some people thought. So John is working out for me to make it, for some people, easier to understand how much per $1,000 on each one of our debt exclusions, so that we'll have it on a sheet to pass out on a spreadsheet for people.
Great.
So,
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to give that clarification.
Anything else? I think we're all set? Okay. Let's move on. I think next on the agenda was the NIASC report. Welcome.
While we're getting started, just want to go over the timeline just for some clarification. There seems to be a lot of confusion as to what is going on with NIASC, why we're off by a year, so on and so forth. So I want to start with the letter we received in the fall of 2007.
Can you-
We had a relatively new.
Excuse me, Scott. Could you hold just one second while Christian, or where did,
No, he's not here.
I know he wants to get the camera on the, and I know he
I'll
has,
stop PowerPoint for a little while. So
yeah, hold off on the PowerPoint. Great,
it'll-
thank you.
it'll have time to readjust.
Christian, if you want to move the camera now, that's fine.
You take your time up.
Take your time.
I've got a few minutes here. So in 2007, NIAS received, we received a letter from NIAS when they realized they were overbooked for site visits for the 2010, 2011 school year.
I'm sorry, you received the letter in 2007?
2007,
Thank you.
okay? We had a relatively new administrative team at the high school at that point in time, and they were pushing for us to hold off for a year to have a 2011, 2012 school visit for the NIAS site visit. They changed our schedule. It ended up being the fall of 2011, as you're all aware, and the self-study began for us in the spring of 2009, and obviously ended in the fall of 2011.
So just to be clear, they initiated the delay.
They were overbooked for visits in 2010. They do them in a cluster in the fall and in a cluster in the spring, and there's only so many people to go to these visits and so many NIASC employees to help set those up. So they were overbooked. So as you're aware, our NIASC visit occurred from Sunday, October 16th to Wednesday, October 19th, 2011. We received the first draft of the NIASC report on February 4th. This is a rough draft. At that point in time, the administration had 2 weeks to review it, and we had a teleconference on February 23rd with the chairwoman of the NIASC visit. Our final draft was released to Wareham High School on March 14th, and at that point in time, we have 60 days to report out and release the NIASC document, which is why we're here today. A rollout committee was established as soon as we had the final copy. We had representation from every department throughout the high school, and we had 3 meetings, which we called follow-up seminars. This allowed us to have the group read the report and plan a rollout to the staff, to the school committee, to the community. On Wednesday, March 28th, we received verbal notice that we have received our accreditation, which I think is very important for us to acknowledge that we have received accreditation. As we'll talk about today, there is a warning status that's attached to that, but again, we do have accreditation. The rollout committee met 2 more times after that fact, and we started to go over the school committee presentation and the press release that we were going to release after the school committee meeting. On Friday, March 30th, as you're all aware, we sent in your packet for the previous school committee meeting, we sent the full report. On the following Monday, April 2nd, the report was rolled out to the Wareham High School staff. And on Wednesday, April 4th, we gave you a little preview at the last school committee meeting about the NEAS report and what you were going to expect at today's meeting. On Monday, April 9th, the school committee released the NEAS report to the press. On Thursday, April 12th, we released a press release to the press as well. And today, here we are to do the presentation. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation, and I would like to go through this. The first part we want to talk about is our accommodations. And I think it's important for us, again, to go back to the fact that we have received accreditation. And before I get into the accommodations, I think it's important for us to recognize the great steering committee that we had. And you'll see throughout the reports, there were mentions of, it was mentioned that the staff, we had such a strong staff, good morale, and you'll hear that a few times in the accommodations. The steering committee consisted of John Blackington, Christine Sinelli, Debbie Freitas, Mel Lazarus, Chris Mars, Mike Murray, Cindy Sylvia, and myself. I'm going to go through standards by standards, the accommodations and recommendations. This is a brief breakdown, but I'll go through it as we get to each standard. Commendations are the actions, practices, and/or policies that the visiting team felt worthy of their praise and recognition. First standard is core values, beliefs, and learning standards. And there are 6 commendations here. I probably should have brought my glasses here, but I'll do the best I can. The wide variety of stakeholders involved in the process of developing the statement of core value, beliefs, and learning expectations. Memorable and effective illustration of the core values through the Viking ship's icon. The development of the school-wide analytical rubric that identified high levels of achievement. The core values and belief statements as a guideline for the implementing positive program changes. The annual review and revision of the core values, beliefs, and learning expectation using using various data sources. Integration of the 21st century learning expectations into
Scott,
yes.
1 second.
Is it possible not to make the highlight of the darkened letters go away? It's becoming hard to see on the camera.
Well, I would. What? If you can give me 1 second, I'll talk about that.
To make it go away.
The highlighted, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but the highlighted was what the rollout committee felt was the 2 biggest commendations, and they wanted those highlighted because they felt those were really huge commendations for us. Now,
when you started, they were black and bold, and we could see them great like that.
Okay.
But when it did the animation, it almost completely washes away on the screen. So the people that are at home aren't getting it.
okay. I'll reread 1.6 one more time. Integration of the 21st century learning expectations into the culture of the school through a poster competition among our advisory periods. Commendations for curriculum, school-wide use of rubrics and portfolio assessment as a capstone. Multiple opportunities to practice 21st century learning skills in the curriculum. Curriculum depth of understanding and application of knowledge through inquiry and problem-solving activities and projects. Alignment of the 21st century learning expectations with courses in the program of studies. Clear alignment between the written and taught curriculum that ensures student equity of access to the curriculum. Dedicated and committed staff members who provide resources for students. Authentic learning opportunities for students both in and out of school. Accommodations for instruction. The variety of instructional practices used at WHS that enables many students to practice and achieve the school's 21st century learning expectation. The participation of all teachers in an in-service day analysis of MCAS data, allowing them to improve their instruction through the use of summative assessment data. The use of in-class student feedback by some teachers in order to improve their instructional practices. The many teachers who independently seek out opportunities to stay current in their content-specific practices. Commendations for assessment of and for student learning. The revised common assessment and portfolio assignments to augment teaching and learning. A variety of assessment strategies across the disciplines. Requiring rubrics for all portfolio entries, assignments, projects, and examinations. Some models of course syllabi and essential questions. The portfolio system as an exit requirement. Scaled grading policy, including the summer school. Timely student assessment and feedback. Consistent school-wide use of school-wide rubrics. Use of Power School to communicate with parents. the portfolio requirement, which makes the students' 21st century learning expectations real and relevant. And I'll take a pause after after standard 7 for any questions, so we're almost there. School culture, commendations, the spirit, pride, and respectful culture through Wareham High School that results in a sense of community for both students and adults. The inclusion of world history as a heterogeneous core course and a graduation requirement. The institution of a formal, ongoing advisory program. The provision of content-specific observations and evaluations to improve student learning. The significant efforts of the principal and other building leaders to provide a focus of teaching and learning which is rooted in the school's core values and beliefs about learning. The dedication of teachers in promoting a positive school culture. The collaboration of school and district leaders in assisting students to achieve the school's 21st century learning expectations. The ability of the principal to make school-based decisions without concern for barriers from district leaders. Accommodations for school resources for learning, the development of the TAC and SAS systems, the support students in need of academic intervention, the hiring of an adjustment counselor to provide psychological, behavioral, and substance abuse intervention, the hiring of 4 deans who personalize the handling of disciplinary issues and the writing of 504 plans, the delivery of a developmental guidance curriculum, the access to a variety of outside agencies, preventative health care, the library's initiative to successfully raise funds in support of the library media services, and this is outside funds. Community resources for learning, accommodations, the clean and well-maintained building and grounds, the principal's long-range plan for the high school, compliance with applicable federal and state laws and with local fire, health, and safety agencies, and the variety of communication strategies employed to keep the parents informed. And the last one is the many community partnerships that strengthen the learning opportunities at Wareham High School. So those are all the commendations. I do want to mention as well, there are 46 commendations in total, and as you'll hear in a few minutes, there are 44 recommendations. So the commendations do outweigh the recommendations, and we're excited about that. And one more time, just to reiterate, we are excited that we do have the accreditation status. I'll take a pause here at the midway point and certainly entertain any questions.
Committee? Mike? All set? Rhonda?
Nope.
Ken? Cliff?
Well, I got a couple comments. I don't know if they're questions, but I think that one of the things that is coming through loud and clear is the fact that despite limited resources, it's incredible what we actually are doing at the high school. And I think that we would be remiss if we didn't say that this is certainly a team effort in terms of getting the job done under very tough conditions, especially financial conditions. A couple of things that when I read the report that really stood out to me, it was on school culture, and basically they got this from the students. And forgive me for reading it, but I put it in quotes, and I think it just tells the attitude of the kids to Wareham High School and the staff. And I quote, the school, strong sense of pride. The school continues, no, I'm sorry. It's characterized, staff characterizes as a safe, positive, supportive, respectful, and truly caring school culture. Students are happy to be at Wareham High School and feel that they are members of a school family. That really struck me, especially the last part, where the kid says, no, we feel welcomed here. We feel like we matter here. We feel like people care about us here. And if we hear all these things about isolated incidences at the high school, but for me, that speaks volumes, that using those adjectives, safe, positive, supportive, respectful, and truly caring school culture, I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that that is the ground floor element for positive teaching and learning opportunities. So I just thought that really struck me in terms of a great thing. And the other thing too is way that the staff is remarkable about their role in terms of doing things on their own. That was brought up about 4 or 5 times in the report in terms of buying supplies, going the extra mile, actually to the point where even home contact, although communication was talked about a little bit in the negative at one point. But I think that they have, it was in the implied and also explicit that the staff is finding creative ways to do with less, to do more with less. And I think that is truly remarkable. And again, I have to say this, and I'm not trying to put a plug in here, but all throughout the report, when they had positive comments about programs, ROTC and DECA was mentioned, and so I think that I would be remiss if I didn't say that. So again, I think there was an awful lot positive, but probably the one that impressed me more than anything, and the one that still continues to impress me, and the one that I support the most is your capstone activities. I think we're on the cutting edge on that. I've always thought it. Hopefully, I've given some input into development of that program, and I think that we still continue to improve it. And I think that we are on the cutting edge on that. And it was again when it came to assessment and instruction, that was mentioned over and over and over again in the report. So I think that there's a lot to be proud of at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff?
And the other, if one more thing, and the other thing is, I think we've seen Mr. Palladino as high school principal more than we've ever seen another high school principal. So I thank you for
I don't
your
know if that's a
nights
good
out.
thing or a bad thing. It depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to my
I won't
wife.
talk to your wife, though.
It's a bad thing if you're always in the principal's office. So, the funny thing is, I did not copy Dr. Sylvia's notes, and while he was commenting on some things, I said, wow, I highlighted the same things, school pride. I remember the first day my daughter came home with a paper, and it said the Viking ships, and I was furious. I said, who is Pat Clark to change the name from Wareham Vikings to Wareham Viking ships? I had no clue what it was until I read the stuff, and I said, wow, that is awesome. And they mentioned that in the report, and the same thing was the school pride. And, you know, through youth programs, I deal with a lot of kids, and they're proud to be in Wareham. Their complaint, naturally, is they don't have the technology and stuff, and hopefully, if the townspeople get out and rattle the cages of the Board of Selectmen to get these things on the ballot, then maybe we can get things done. But basically, you know, I'll have other comments on the report, but as you read through it, the one thing that sticks out is if there were some negative things, they were all tied into resources, and that's something that, you know, is tough for us to control. Especially, you know, I think some of the other stuff, Scott, gets after you get past number 7. So I just wanted to echo those, and it says, what I highlighted here, despite the lack of funding, the community is a great supporter of the school. And that shows in what Mrs. Panarisi and they did down at the Deacon School. I mean, that sentence right there defines what they did. I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Jessica, chime in anytime you like.
Okay.
Okay? Why don't you continue, please?
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand out part of the rollout committee. What we did was we tried to break down the next steps, planning our priorities, and what we did was we color-coded this so we could kind of attack the area that we need to attack. It's important to remember that we need to, with the recommendations, within 18 months, we need to take care of a third of these recommendations. And what I mean by taking care of them, they no longer can be an issue, and we have to provide evidence within that 18 months that these issues have been taken care of. I'm happy to say in the write-up today with Dr. Rabinovich, we both agreed that if if the technology and textbooks override passes and the roof passes, we'll be in good shape in 18 months. But right now, we have a lot of work to do, and I'll talk about these recommendations. But word was we had 5 years to fix these. Well, that's true. We have 5 years to fix everything, but we have 18 months to fix 1/3 of these, okay? And we have less than 5 years now to fix everything.
Just so there's no ambiguity about what this all means. We are accredited now, but we're on warning.
We have warning. We'll have, hopefully sometime this week, we'll have a letter with highlights of what needs to be fixed by before February of 2013. They'll have a list of these are the most important things you need to address right away. I guarantee technology, textbooks, and the roof will be on there.
What theoretically would be the impact on our accreditation if 18 months later we had not
We'll be
made,
placed on probation.
we would be placed on probation?
We may be placed on probation if we cut 6 teachers. It's a substantive change, and we'll be placed on probation
And is that literally effective immediately?
immediately. And at that
And
point in time...
probation doesn't mean you've lost accreditation.
Right. Still doesn't mean you lost accreditation.
What
That's
is the
correct.
sequence from the time you're on probation, what is the sequence to actual loss of accreditation?
It would be 5 years from the visit.
So you're on probation for 5 years.
You could be,
You could be.
correct. And
Or-
it becomes more stringent as far as the highlighted areas become more stringent, the timelines become a little tighter.
I'm not exactly clear. You've got this 18-month window to do certain things.
To do 1/3 of the,
To
take care of
1/3
1/3
of
of
the
the
things.
recommendations.
But if you fail to do them, you've got 5 years to get off
You're placed on
probation.
probation
Up to.
5 years.
But, so there's you got to do certain things within 18 months if you're on probation?
You
You
if
don't
you're
have
on
a-
probation, it becomes more stringent as far as what you need to do to get off probation and to get up to the warning status. The goal would be from probation to try and get on what's called level 3, which is your warning status.
I understand that. I'm concerned about the other direction. You're saying you couldn't lose accreditation for 5 years?
No. We've got 18
Well-
months, if I could, we've got, because I know
Are
about
you
this
deferring to
process.
Dr. Sylvia on this?
That's fine. He's
Okay,
been through
go
it a
ahead.
few times.
You've got 18 months to respond to 1/3 of the recommendations.
I understand that part.
If you do not respond to 1/3 of those recommendations, or you don't adequately respond to 1/3 of those recommendations, you are placed on probation.
Right, got
You
that.
still have 5 years. So you don't have a full 5 years. You've got whatever time is left between the 18 months that you
You've got
used
three
and
and a
the
half-
5 years.
you've got
That's
three and a
correct.
half years.
That's correct. And
You
you've got to have it
You have
all
three-
fixed within 5 years.
3.5 years to show cause to move out of probation.
That's correct. And if you don't have it done within 5 years, then you are likely to lose accreditation.
Okay, so you have 18 months to maintain your status of accredited but on warning.
Correct.
If you don't meet that timeline, you shift to being on probation, and then you've got 3.5 years before you risk loss of accreditation.
It's 3 years, right?
I'm just doing simple math,
Right,
but, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you're on probation, the status of being on probation is not public information, correct?
Yes, it is.
It is.
It's warning is not public information.
Okay.
So when you go on the website, you're not going to see Wareham High Schools and it has accreditation with warning.
So-
Probation, you can go on and see the schools on probation.
So we could potentially be in the public eye for 3.5 years on probation.
Hopefully not,
Right.
but we could be.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Another question that I have, when looking at, I know you're about to go through the recommendations, but one of the things that I found interesting is that I found some of the recommendations could be subjective, meaning that what they feel is the appropriate way to respond and the way we feel is the appropriate way to respond could be completely different. Are you going to address that going forward on, how do we know that the work that is going to be done is actually going to be seen as the right way that they see going about it?
Right, and there's ways to show evidence that we're moving in that direction. there's different ways to do it. You're right, there's the way that maybe they think, but there's other ways that other schools have done it and have taken care of that recommendation.
So you're looking at examples of other schools that maybe have had similar pieces or
We've-
recommendations that we have and seen what they've done?
We've visited quite a few schools already and will continue to do so.
Okay.
As
So the-
as depressing as sometimes it is going to other schools, we will continue to do so.
Because they have better technology than us. Okay, whatever. So the other general question that I have is many of the things that I saw in here, and I'm just saying this now, I know you still have to go through your recommendations, but I'm hoping that you maybe address this, is that it's not all about money. But one of the ones that I have a question about is many of the things in there are around scheduling. And it's really a yes or no answer, or you can elaborate on it. Do you think that because it's scheduling for collaboration, scheduling for communications, scheduling for examination, scheduling for assessment, scheduling for providing input, when I basically say that it's not all about money, when I look at many of those, does scheduling equal money? Because it's about giving more time
I
and
think indirectly, yes. But I think there's other ways to creatively achieve those standards that we're looking to achieve, whether it's common planning time, collaborative time with the special ed department and other departments. I think there's different ways to achieve that. But certainly, funding is one issue. But I'm really, as I get going through this, I think you're going to be happy to hear that there are 10 areas that we're going to go over in a few minutes that we've identified that require no money, that we can address without money. So obviously, I'm looking at that as that's the first part of the first third we're going to try and attack.
Right.
There are also 18 areas that are kind of similar to this scheduling, common planning time, et cetera. There are 18 issues that indirectly, they do require some funding, but they also require some things behind the scenes, some work by the staff, and that's 18. There are 16 issues that we'll address that are 100% related to funding, and I'm sure you've read through those and you mentioned some already. So we did, again, with the rollout committee, we did break this down, and we feel that we have a priorities list that we've created, and we had a meeting today, ironically, after school, and we're starting to try and hammer out what needs to be done right now. What can we deal with the budget that we have? And most of it is in that group of 10. We highlighted them in green for let's get going on it, and those are the things we're working on right now.
And I appreciate that. I mean, when I saw many of those things and I saw scheduling, and we talked to all of the principals, all of the administrators about we need more time for collaboration, we need more time for many of the things that they have on here, and I'm looking forward to what you're proposing, creative ways on how we can get some of those opportunities, and maybe we can share them across the board with all the schools.
Great. We'll start with the recommendations, and I am going to pass this off because I think and Christian, you'll be glad to hear I did not use the color for the PowerPoint, so I know you'll be happy. Christian went on a field trip with me yesterday, so I wanted to make sure we could see this.
Thank you. I think the green makes it really easy to see, Scott.
Thank you.
Dr. Sylvia, what's the cost per copy on a color printer?
That was in kind.
I don't have
donated from a citizen.
I don't have a color printer. I don't know.
You don't even have a computer.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
It's Windows 95. That's why I can't open anything that's attached.
We don't have a copy.
Try unlocking the windows.
Okay, so just to go over the recommendations, and the recommendations are those elements which the NEAS Visiting Committee feels that need our attention and/or improvement. Each recommendation will need to be addressed, but some will be highlighted by the Commission in our reaccreditation letter due before the end of April. So as soon as I have that, I will absolutely forward that to Dr. Binovich, and I'm sure he'll forward it to you. We checked the facts before we left. It has not found its way to Wareham High School, but I'm sure within the next few days we'll get that. These highlighted recommendations will become the basis for the second year report. So we'll start off with the recommendations for core values, beliefs, and learning standards. And as you can see in your report, we have highlighted these all in green. And again, the key to this is green. These are areas that we're going to address right away. The yellow are areas that are going to take some time and some money. Again, it's not all directly funding, it's indirectly funding, and obviously the red, for being in the red, is 100% funding. So the development of an analytical rubric to measure student proficiency in meeting learning expectations, which is our R4 and our learning expectations. Students will act responsibly and respectfully by understanding the achievements and traditions of a multicultural and global society. And 1.2, to ensure more parent involvement in the review and revision of the core values, beliefs, and learning expectations documents. So those are obviously, as we look, those are priorities to get started on right away. There's no funding involved there. In the curriculum, and just to the areas of concern that we will get in the letter are Standard 2 and Standard 7. Standard 2 obviously being curriculum, and Standard 7 obviously being the community resources for learning. Those are the two areas, and I would argue that they're both, as I think Mr. Font said, they're both tied into funding. Establish a short and long-term plan for curriculum development and revision. And believe it or not, we've already started that, and we started that shortly after the visit. The develop and implement the use of common template for writing of curriculum. That was actually established, I believe, in the summer, and so that's something we've already started as well. So a couple of these things are already being taken care of. Then in the red, provide the school's professional staff with sufficient personal time and financial resources for ongoing and collaborative development, evaluation and revision of the curriculum using assessment results and current research.
And just to clarify, it's not just provide professional staff with sufficient personal time. It's personnel and then time.
Personnel. Thank you. The red is
because we'd all love more personal time. But.
Thank you. Establish a protocol to ensure ongoing two-way communication regarding curriculum between and among all academic areas and sending schools. And that is in the green. We were talking about that today. And then secure sufficient funding to upgrade technology, equipment, and instructional, mine got cut off here. Materials, thank you. Okay.
So the green means you can do it now?
The green is go, we're working on that now.
Yellow has some financial implications, and red has almost all financial implications.
Exactly.
Is that correct? Thank you.
Exactly.
Scott, why don't you plan on pausing between each number?
Okay.
Okay?
That would be great.
We've had 1 and 2. Are there any questions associated with 1 and 2, specifically core values, beliefs, learning standards, and curriculum?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Can you explain why developing and implement the use of common template for writing of curriculum would need funding?
Because of the development of the curriculum. There's time that's needed professionally for the staff to get together to write the curriculum.
And then training on it?
Both.
Okay.
Yes, the actual time to revise the curriculum and to write the curriculum.
Okay. The other question I have is establish a protocol to ensure ongoing two-way communication. I mean, we talk about communication all the time. Did they give you any additional feedback on that, what we weren't doing around?
I think what they'd like to see, it's from what we heard when we did have the teleconference, is the continuation of what we have, which is the ILT program, where we have instructional leaders from the high school, middle school, and elementary school. They'd like to see us continue to do that. And then bringing that back to the staff as well was kind of the second phase, to make sure there's collaborative time to bring that back. So not only are the department heads, the ILTs, having that good communication of what's going on at the middle school, what's going on at the high school, but it's also being disseminated down to the staff.
Okay, and then I don't know if this is a question for you or Dr. Rabinovich. I think this will help me as we're going through this. Is as the team is coming up with the plan or the way that you're going about to, like what you just said, Scott, that was useful information. Is that something that's going to be shared with this committee? I know that I personally would like to, continue to be aware of how we're taking care of a third that's needed and then in the next 18 months. What is the plan for updating, and I'm sure the community would too, updating some of the practices or the things that you're putting in place around each one of these items? Right.
I would imagine we'll be briefing the school committee at different points in time, certainly before the October of 2013 report that would be going out. And I would imagine, obviously, as I'm starting to work on my school improvement plan, this is part of my school improvement plan. And certainly at any point in time, I think having good communication with the school committee is going to be important. Any point in time, we'd be glad to come here. We're here often, and there's no
Right.
reason why we couldn't keep you posted on where we're at. Certainly, we'll be willing to forward the evidence as far as what we've done to take care of some of these recommendations.
Yeah, I think that it would be nice to get a little bit more information. I appreciate the green, the yellow, and the red, but being able to know what, especially around the greens, you pretty much already know what you're going to do to meet some of those recommendations, and it would be nice to kind of get that information as well.
Sure.
Great, thanks. Or the red, just basically saying, it's money. Not going to even touch it until this board somehow gets the
Right.
school more money.
Definitely.
Any committee members have any? Mike?
We're on curriculum, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I had regarding page 23, something that kind of struck me here. It says here, although there is a director of curriculum who is responsible for development of district-wide curriculum, coordination, and articulation, insufficient time is devoted to the task. Only one meeting per month is dedicated to creating and revising curriculum, and while one day is used annually to analyze MCAS, SAT, and WCAS data, there is no allocated time for analyzing data in other areas. Thus, there is insufficient time to write and revise curriculum, hindering the instructional staff from providing an effective, up-to-date curriculum that serves 21st century learning standards. And that struck me because it sort of captures that we have this curriculum director, but I wish it had some more detail as to, I don't understand what the curriculum director is doing when she's not doing this. Do we need another curriculum director, or how does that work? And that really has nothing to do with you. Yeah, and I thought that was a little unfair to put it in here because you have no control over that, but.
If I can speak on that, I think it's an organizational thing. Different school systems, and NEAS goes throughout the country to different, this particular one is New England, but many districts have K-12 directors working underneath a curriculum director. So you have a curriculum director, and then you have a director of math, of English language arts, of social studies, of fine arts, that work K-12, have no teaching responsibilities. We have one curriculum director that is responsible for curriculum K through 12. We have department heads at the high school that teach half-time and are responsible for the curriculum at the high school in collaboration with the curriculum director. We've had to do an awful lot of curriculum revision K through 8, and that's where the curriculum director's focus has been, and I think that's what they've talked about a little bit in this report. We're well aware, in fact, we've already started working on the math revision, and that's why we've said we'll have textbooks for math. We have curriculum committees coming up this spring. But it really is having the time to work in all places, and also at the same time having to write grants and so forth. So I understand what it says, but part of it is that collaboration between the department heads and the curriculum department, and is what they're talking about here, from my perspective.
And to go hand in hand with that, it's again, I think the high school takes a little knock, but then they couldn't do anything about it, where they say that in 8th grade you cut out the history, History 1. And so they come into high school expecting to do History 2, and they don't have History 1. But there's no communication there. Now, is that, again, the curriculum director's responsibility to say, hey, we shouldn't have cut that, or?
No, that has to do with the resources that were taken away from the system last year. The fact that our budget was cut, and when the town said nobody was cut, we lost 8 teachers at the middle school. And that wasn't known until after town meeting, and when we didn't have the resources, something had to be done. So there wasn't time to first alert them to say, this is what we're thinking of doing. That was the principal of the middle school's decision to make. So, no, it wasn't the high school's thing. I think what they're talking about in here is that there has to be, in fact, today, Scott came in to pick me up, and the curriculum director and I were meeting with the high school with the middle school principal about next year's schedule and what changes need to be made and how that then will affect. So once that is determined, once we know how much money we have and we can build a schedule that takes care of all the curriculum needs of the middle school and what changes that may make, for instance, the foreign language at the middle school, then the two principals have to sit down with the curriculum director to discuss that. And it can't happen until after that's done.
Now, is History 2 required, or is that an elective?
Required.
So what happened to the kids that didn't have the History 1? Do they just have to wait a year and then?
Mr.
I'm sorry, I
Palladino
couldn't hear
will
the
have
question.
What happened to the kids that didn't have History 1 when they came to the high school? I mean, if they have to take History 2, what
Well,
happened to them?
They have to take 3 years of history at the high school. You know, the eighth grade history in the middle school, that kind of builds the foundation. But as far as, you know, are they going to be at the same level as kids that have had history? I'm not sure. They do have the, you know, the new program there that they've created. And it's the first year, so we really can't comment on, you know, what we've seen. Those kids haven't come to the high school yet, but they do have 3 years of history that's required at the high school. And, you know, I'd probably in a few years be able to comment if it stays the same, but right now I'm not sure, you know, how that change has affected us.
And we are following the mass frameworks for social studies. There are different pathways that a school can follow in order to meet the frameworks. And where we're starting with the second half of world history, which is what you're talking about, is completely acceptable at the high school level for in the Massachusetts frameworks.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mr. Flaherty, the way I read into this, though, from my experience, is the time is money. And the insufficient time, I don't think, is a direct relationship to the curriculum director. I think the point they're making is that we need time to revise curriculum, and time is money, okay? Because there's no time during the day. These teachers are out straight. They've agreed to teach an extra class at the high school. And the way I read into this is that we need to figure out a way to give them time at the end of the school year, at the beginning of the school year, before school starts, to revise these curriculums, which obviously is needed now with the Common Core.
Thank you.
Ken?
Well, that was interesting from Mike, because I highlighted my curriculum thing. There's a lot of comments that weren't good. So I just need some explanation. Mike addressed the curriculum coordination and all that, but some of the other things I keep reading over and over is communication between the high school and sending school is limited. Not all curriculum decisions are made by this team or communicated. There's the communication again. Lack of communication. The foreign language department was completely unaware of curriculum changes at the middle school. Lack of coordination, communication, lack throughout this whole report. So I want to know how you respond to that. Do they give you a chance to explain why this is happening? Because, to be honest, when I read this entire report, probably like everybody else, I didn't find too many positive things in curriculum. And it's a lot of it, I don't know that a lot of it is tied into funding. Maybe it is. So I'd like a little explanation on that.
Well, I think it's important, and I'm going to take you back about 15 years. From basically the time we got out to the end of June, almost every department stayed in session and worked on curriculum. And I can be honest with you, because I worked from the time we got out to the end of June this past year and many years before. And it's funding again. And when we do have the money, we have to prioritize. What do we need to? We looked at science last year. That was an area we needed to address the curriculum. So, I think as far as revising curriculum, it takes money. And I think my predecessors and myself, you look at it. Okay, are we going to spend X amount of dollars? Or are we going to try and keep a teacher? And I think it's a balancing act. And it's something that every school is dealing with. There's a little more pressure on revising the curriculum now with the National Common Core. We now, obviously, we have to revise curriculums. We have to purchase new textbooks. Our hands are tied. as far as the communication with the middle school, it's something that we have, I think we've improved upon. Remember, the self-study that they're addressing here is a few years old, but it's something that we've been working on. I think the ILTs, the WILTs, the meetings that we've had over the last 2 years, I think we've had some good communication. I personally had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Gilmore probably a dozen times this year, including most recently last Wednesday. So I think there's been better communication, certainly something that needed to be worked on, but I don't think it's one person or one issue. There's many issues as to why that exists.
And I'd also like to add that we did get a chance to talk with the commission on the report from the visiting committee. And the chairperson, Scott, and I did address that with them. We did say that we do have ILTs now, we do have these things, but at the time when the report was written, even by our own standard committees, again, you're going back over 2 years. And in that time frame from when the Endicott survey was first taken, which was before the very start of this NEASC process, the reaccreditation process, the ILT teams didn't really exist then, and since then they have. And when we wanted that to be changed in the report, because there were some things that were changed in the first draft of the report versus the report that you see before you, and what we were told, little back and forth and banter, was that, well, that's good that you have that now, so when you do your 2-year report, you'll be able to address that and explain what's in place now. So they went by what was in the Endicott report, what was in the original reports when they were written. Some of these reports were written 18 months before they came, because they were written in segments. So, there are some things that we will be addressing that actually in the 2-year report that we're already doing now that do actually get to these corrections that we need to deal with the recommendations.
How do we stack up with other districts as far as in that department? Because when this goes out to the media and everything, and if I didn't know better, I'd read it and say, wow, the curriculum director is doing a terrible job. That whole department is terrible. But I know that's not the fact, because when you have one person, K through 12, and whatever the department is, a lot of it is tied into funding, and I think that needs to be explained and clarified, because everything that I talked about, if you go down the next paragraph, it's due to limited resources. So it's not a personal attack, don't get me wrong, on the director of curriculum or anything. It's like, how do we improve in that area? And from what I'm gathering, that resources are probably the reason that director of curriculum is probably going in 9 different directions, and it's not helping out the program.
Right, and I don't know her total job description, but I also know she does a lot with grants, so there's a lot to it. But I will say, as a second-year principal, the curriculum director has been very supportive of the high school. We've met this year probably 24 times, and I think we have a good collaborative effort going on with the curriculum department and department heads and Debbie and myself. So I know we're moving in the right direction. The unfortunate part, as Debbie said, is some of these reports that they're citing are now 2+ years old. But it's important to note that those changes with the instructional leadership team weren't as a result of, we're going to be on NEAS, this is what we're doing. This was a long-term plan by the curriculum department. It wasn't just, let me Band-Aid this and create. This was something that was in the works that through the school committee, through negotiations, they've created at the middle school and at the elementary schools, the ILT groups as well.
Okay. Thank you.
There is, Cliff? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your
Go
hand.
ahead, I can wait.
No, go ahead.
I just got a couple of comments, and I'll try to keep it as brief as I can for me. We all want to be aware, and we all want to be made aware of, where you're going with this. And I'd like to clear up a couple of things, is that when you get that letter from NEASC, you're going to have a certain, you're going to get like suggested timelines. And they don't want the whole package all at once in 18 months from that. They want the things in bits and pieces. So they're going to be able to communicate back and forth as to, what you think you should do or what you are doing, and then you'll get some feedback from them as to if that's acceptable, unacceptable, or how you could improve upon it, or maybe some suggestions. So it's going to be an ongoing process during this 18 months. But I view that the responding to the recommendations as your work. It's not our work. Certainly I want to be kept informed, but, I still see it as your work as a school administration, district work through the curriculum office or whatever, superintendent. But I see that as the work of the professionals, and certainly I want to be made aware of it, but I don't want to be in a position where I want to be involved at the rudimentary level. However, there are some things in this report, and at the beginning of the report also, that I have to comment on before we even get into curriculum. One of the things that we've talked about, and it came through loud and clear in the report, are some things that bother me, that these things shouldn't have been an issue. And I'm not going to say why they are an issue. In my opinion, they shouldn't have been an issue. Not to have a common template for curriculum construction shouldn't have been an issue. Given the fact that we had advance warning that our accreditation was coming, we've been very actively working on curriculum development, curriculum review, to have a common template, common to all curriculum areas, not only at the high school, but district-wide, I think is something that we should have had, and it shouldn't have been an issue at all. In terms of vertical articulation, I think there's a misunderstanding probably as you read this report. And here's the thing that bothers me. You have an in-school curriculum team at the high school. There is no such curriculum teams, and there hasn't been any such curriculum teams at all of our elementary level. There has been basically one person saddled the responsibility of curriculum development and review, and that was the curriculum office. So even though I see our curriculum director as the curriculum leader, so to speak, you do have an in-house team of curriculum leaders that probably could have been a little bit more involved. They have a limited teaching schedule, and I think that they could have been a little bit more proactive in terms of some of the issues that were brought up, such as a common template. And I'm not saying that maybe we needed some direction from Central. That could be so. But all I'm saying is it really shouldn't have been an issue. The second thing that I'm concerned about is vertical articulation. That shouldn't be an issue. There should be articulation relative to curriculum all the time, ongoing, between the two schools, especially the sending school, which would be the middle school. And I think communication goes both ways. It shouldn't be your responsibility to communicate with the middle school any more than it's the middle school's responsibility to communicate with you. There should be a free flow of ideas. And that, to me, should never have been an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. There should be an ongoing communication. I understand that there is a meeting now in the schedule for the middle school, and we had some changes in social studies. We had some changes in foreign language. All right? The reason that's an issue is because we didn't have free flow of ideas, number one. And number two, the staff took a back seat to the development of these initiatives, even though I know that most of them were were based in fiscal necessity. But from where I sit, it shouldn't have been an issue. Throughout the report, it says that even though we're using school-wide rubrics, we're not using them efficiently, and we're not using them in all areas. That shouldn't be an issue, especially knowing full well that this accreditation team was going to come in the fall. And you really had an extra year. Not you, the high school staff, because a lot of this is pre-Scott. Get that right now. So I think that there is some legitimacy on what the report says in terms of not just curriculum, but in general operations of the system. But I think that one of the things that struck me was a line on page 8, and it said that the school tries to do more with less, like teachers providing their own materials. However, this should not be the hallmark of a caring community in preparing its children for the 21st century challenges. So yeah, we're doing more with less, but you know what? Let's not rest our hats on that. And the other thing that was on page 8 of the summary was that we need common plan and time and teaming. They made it very clear that the level of expertise by our teachers in differentiation, in usage of technology, and formal assessment is not where it should be. Again, that shouldn't be an issue. That should be an ongoing strategy. It should be ongoing dialogue, and there should be ongoing articulation between the high school, the middle school, and the curriculum office. So I think that even though some of these things are money issues and time issues, I think that some of these items in the report really didn't necessarily have to be an issue. One of the things, here's another one, in terms of collaboration. It's stated in the report that a wide group of stakeholders were involved in the collaboration and development of your core values. There was only one entity not represented in the development of the core values. You know what that entity was? School committee. School committee was not involved in that process whatsoever. So if we're going to talk about stakeholders, let's talk about stakeholders. I consider myself a stakeholder.
Again, I wasn't here at that
I
point,
know.
but it was never brought in front of you for approval?
It might have. I don't remember it, but I know I wasn't involved in the development of it.
Right.
So, but it said the stakeholders were involved in the ground roots development area of it. So these are some of the areas that concern me in the general report. I've talked a little bit about curriculum, and in terms of the social studies, again, that was an articulation issue. But I've never agreed with the pathway that we've chosen. I've been very vocal about that. As Mr. Rutella can tell you, I've been very, very vocal. I didn't agree with it when we put it in. I voted no at the time, and I still think it's a lousy pathway. So I don't know what you can do about that. I'll take a break.
Thank you. Could you go back one slide, please, to number 1? I'm not even sure, well, I could write several paragraphs, maybe even a paper, on what R4 means. But I think there are a lot of people who could write a paper. They'd all be good, and they'd all say something different. So I'm not sure what R4 even means, so good luck answering that. But with respect to 1.2, I must tell you the best part of my responsibility as a school committee member is interacting with parents. And I can tell you that now, admittedly, there's some adverse selection here, because if they're interacting with me, it means that they're taking initiative. They care, which I obviously commend them for. But there are a lot of frustrated parents. And my comment here is not uniquely to the high school in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, I probably interact, well, no, that's not true, with tennis players. I guess it's about equal. But they're a frustrated group. They're frustrated with levels of expectations. They're frustrated with their level of involvement. Even though they want to be involved, they're pushed away. So I think this is an outstanding opportunity to take initiatives across the district, not just the high school, to have parents more involved in this core values, beliefs, and learning expectations. Because one of the things that's very clear to me is there is a huge disparity between some parents who want so much and some parents who are barely involved. Now, I won't begin to say that I know great techniques for getting people who don't have the time or the inclination to be involved and how you get them involved. I haven't, but I know that the parents who really want to be involved and volunteer and et cetera, those are gold mines. Those are people we want to nourish, and those are people we want to make feel incredibly welcome. And I hope we take advantage of the fact that we've been asked by a third party to involve parents, so we do this for parents at all levels of the district. Switching over to curriculum. I won't, as the saying goes, beat a dead horse on this, but I shared my committee members' concerns about the comment related to vertical alignment and articulation. I do have a question. They made the specific comment that we should renew vertical alignment and articulation. And maybe this isn't a fair question for you, so I'll leave it to Dr. Rabinovich or perhaps Jan to answer this question. But when was the last time it was, in fact, aligned?
I'd be happy to speak to that.
Can you speak in the microphone?
Yes, thank
Go on
you.
down and join the group.
In fact, feel free to stay there, and we'll let you know when you're no longer useful.
You want to rephrase that?
Oh, my God.
I'm glad you said it, not me.
And what I meant by that was, I suspect you're going to be there a long time.
I will be happy to be here, and I'm thrilled to answer questions and speak to any of the comments. And as Scott has already mentioned, as Mr. Palladino and Mrs. Freitas have mentioned, we have met repeatedly on this. And I want to echo what several committee members, including Dr. Sylvia, have mentioned, that this study and this report, and I think Deb pointed it out clearly, began over 2 years ago under a different administration and under different circumstances.
Could you focus on answering my question, though?
Given that the articulation of curriculum vertically was thorough and done with active teams, by our own policies, any curriculum development, revision, and review must involve the teachers who are teaching, for obvious reasons. And that is why it is a fiscal situation, because we pay teachers for time beyond the
Please.
school day.
I asked
So
a specific question.
when was vertical alignment?
When was the last time the curriculum was, in fact, vertically aligned?
The vertical alignment is achieved when the standards and frameworks are changed. The last revision of state curriculum frameworks was 2004 and 2007, with a small revision and update in 2010. At each of those times, and continuously since I've been in the district, up until 2 years ago, we had vertical teams and active standing curriculum committees that reviewed curriculum and aligned it with the standards that existed, building priority standards and objectives for student learning and grade level expectations. They all can be found on the curriculum website, on our district website. They
Okay,
are
so
there.
your answer to my question is the curriculum was, in fact, vertically aligned as of the end of the 2010.
Now, in
Is that
2000
correct?
That is correct. Let me just continue for 1 minute, please. In 2010, the state joined and then adopted the national Common Core standards. So we needed a new alignment. Consequently, at the same time, in the fall of 2010, we received our initial Race to the Top grant application. So now, once again, we have funds to establish vertical teams. The district instructional leadership team includes our instructional leaders, but also teacher representatives, so that we are currently in the process of vertically aligning all of our curriculum to the new state and Common Core standards.
So you're asserting that this third-party, highly respected accrediting agency is concerned about our vertical alignment, even though it was vertically aligned as of the close of the school year in 2010,
Yes,
and it
sir.
has only been slightly misaligned as a result of the Common Core change that has occurred only very recently? That's what you're saying to us?
That's what I'm saying. The curriculum binders, curriculum that was developed was current to the former standards. It is not yet aligned fully to the new standards.
I must say, given that Common Core, and as recently as this past conference that I just attended, is a huge current issue for the whole country, okay?
Yes,
I find
sir.
it hard to believe that we would be dinged, so to speak, for a lack of articulation when our misalignment is so recent. Do you agree with this, that we were fully aligned as of the close of the school year in 2010?
Yes.
Wow.
In those areas that that have a statewide curriculum. There are other instructional areas that may or may not be aligned.
I don't believe I limited my alignment assertion to a specific curriculum.
Certainly, when you change radically a social studies curriculum or a foreign language curriculum, certainly that interrupts any kind of alignment between the two schools.
The reason I'm a little skeptical, but would be happy to be wrong, is that I thought vertical alignment was something, I've been on the school committee now 6 years, I thought you were struggling with the issue of vertical alignment for a number of years.
We struggle with maintaining monitoring of vertical alignment. We have had and do have vertical alignment. It is posted on our website. It is teachers posted in their classrooms. There's a second layer, and that is implementation, and it is monitoring of that instruction. That is the piece that we have continuously worked with, where we see the instructional leaders and the instructional leadership team, which has been a standing team. This is their 3rd year, and that is representative of all schools, all grade levels, pre-K through 12.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying we have this vertical, or had this vertical alignment on paper, but you lack the confidence that in fact it was being implemented in the actual classrooms.
We know that it was being implemented in most cases. I believe that our principals and their assistants were not only walking through classrooms, but also working with teachers. We had regular meetings of teacher committees in the schools, and that articulation did occur. Can I tell you that it was 100% implemented? No, I cannot.
And by the way, I do not consider that to be your responsibility.
Thank you.
So passing
Well,
it-
I do stay up and worry about it, but I mean, it's
I'm
it's
sure
there.
you do, yes.
Just to make a point. So, a year ago, actually 2 years ago, we recognized we had a problem with the middle school math curriculum.
Yes.
We had a middle school math curriculum committee that worked on revising it to be with the new state and federal frameworks for mathematics. We then put in a new program. This is the first year of that. Now, you could say that is not aligned to the high school at the moment because the high school is not where it needs to be and needs to change. That's why this summer we are redoing the math curriculum at the high school, really to align with the middle school as well as with the National Common Core. So it's a changing, it doesn't stay, it's not static.
You're saying it's dynamic.
It is dynamic, and we don't have the personnel or resources to change it all at the same time, because you need the resources to buy the new materials. We happen to have ARA money that we bought the new math books for the middle school, but we didn't have enough to do for the high school. Now we have this debt exclusion to buy the new math books for the high school, and you also need the time. So the high school has been working on the NEAS self-study for the last 2 years. We needed the time as well to put together this curriculum committee so that they can do the work of putting together that curriculum, choosing the materials, and buying them so we're ready to go in September. So right now, we're out of alignment, in my opinion, but not because of anything other than we haven't had the time to do it. We needed to get one right first, and we believe we've done it. We believe we have the right program now at the middle school for math, and now the high school have to come into line. They're completely changing what was the algebra program. The algebra program will start off at a higher level than it was, because now what we have at middle school is going to go through 8th grade, will go through about 4 chapters of what was the algebra program. So that alignment, it's always a little bit out of whack until you get them together. And then you hope that they stay for a while before it changes again.
Yeah.
And right now we're looking at math. We've been working at ELA at the elementary school and through 8, and then we're gonna have to look at the high school probably for that as well.
If I can just add, there has been no curriculum committee, literally, in the last 3 years, that wasn't vertically represented. Because I firmly believe you can't change one thing without impacting other schools and other teachers and students across the district. It's impossible. So therefore, when we work on anything in one elementary school, we include, representatives from both elementary school are involved. In the same way, a middle school teacher sits on that committee, at least one, if not more than one. When we reviewed the middle school math program, which, as Dr. Rabinovich said, has been a growing concern, and we knew we had to bring it in line with the new standards, on that committee was not only middle school teachers, but we had elementary teachers and high school teachers, so that in the review of what was being done in the program, in the curriculum program, as well as developing our own curriculum priorities, it was done with, if you will, a vertical committee.
All right, I'll conclude and turn it back to Rhonda by saying there's a part of me that wishes someone from the NEAS committee was sitting in front of me so that I could direct some of my questions to them so I could better understand what they're saying, because frankly, what our superintendent said about it being dynamic makes sense to me. The other thing I would say as a caution, though, is you can have lots of vertically integrated processes, but in the end, if it's not implemented, it's all quite academic, so to speak. Rhonda?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here just thinking of an analogy that we have a broken down assembly line, that we're fixing one piece and then all of a sudden it's broken here, and how are we going to pump out an amazing product when it continues to get held up somewhere? Like, I remember when you were talking, what confused me was that I do remember the conversations between when we were implementing, that we just implemented a new, and we saw great results from the math curriculum that we implemented at the elementary school, but that we had to wait to then implement it at the middle school. And so that, to me, does say that we're just not aligned. And so when you were talking about that we do have vertical alignment, all I kept thinking in my head is, well, but I know that we haven't over the last 2 years, because we have been talking about, at least from one perspective, one math curriculum. And so
no, that's why I said it's been 3 years as we've tried, you're right, because we only fix one piece at a time.
You all set? No.
Sure.
No, finish.
I think that the point that I'm trying to make in all of this is that are we looking at this in a very, I know that you're including, but we have seen breakdown communication and decisions that were made at the middle school that could affect or not affect some of the students at the high school. How do we feel like we have the right structure in place that that we are communicating a more K through 12 view, instead of just, all right, well, now that I know that I got the math curriculum set in the elementary school, let me fix it at the high school, and then now, I just want to make sure going forward, and especially this, again, we have a gift in this NEASC report that we're able to have a third party come in and say, because we might all feel like that we have it right and pat ourselves on the back, everything, but it's an opportunity to be able to take a look at what a third party is looking at us. So I'm hoping that we do take a very hard look at maybe we need to change things up a little bit when it comes to how we are communicating with each other around curriculum and people talking to each other and exploring ideas, and instead of just, I'm sure you're doing a piece of it, but maybe looking at more of a overall view instead of, and I know resources are tough, but one.
What I can say to you, Ms. Vegan, is that are we looking at it in a long view and a K-12 view? Yes, we are. I invite anyone to come to our district instructional leadership team. There are 22 members, and they all received copies of the draft Common Core standards when they first came out, before they were finalized. And did we take it apart? Did we begin by saying K-12, what do we have, what do we don't have, and what do we need? Yes. So is the long view and the big view looked at? Absolutely. Is the entire piece fixed at once? No.
Okay. And what I meant by my comment earlier that got such a laugh is I'd like you to stay for the instruction part of this
I'd be
presentation.
happy to.
Dr. Sylvia?
Could someone just tell me if what I'm reading in this report is erroneous? Just tell me if it's erroneous, and I'll just shut up. It says there is a departmental curriculum coordination and vertical alignment within the school and with the sending school. However, communication, this is page 22, last paragraph. However, the communication between the high school and the sending school are limited. Regular meetings are scheduled between the high school department chairs, English, math, science, social studies, and the middle school teachers. However, not all curriculum decisions are made by this team nor communicated to this team. As a result, a lack of communication, foreign language department was completely unaware of curriculum changes at the middle school that directly affected the continuity of programs at the high school. Similarly, the history department offers World History 2 in 9th grade, but World History 1 is no longer offered in 8th grade because of elimination of the history department in the middle school, impacted continuity and content and instruction. The mathematics curriculum also changed at the middle school, resulting in students unprepared for freshman mathematics classes. A district curriculum alignment and articulated committee no longer has a member representing the high school. As a result, a lack of coordination, students are less prepared to meet learning expectations at the high school. And this information came from teachers, self-study department leaders. Is this true or not true?
I will say it is not true, and what nobody has said so far is that, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there are particular department heads that were asked to be at these meetings that are on that instructional leader team and that don't show up on a regular basis.
Then why are they still department heads?
Good point. We shall see on that.
Because, correct me again if I'm wrong, why does a department have a reduced teaching load? What is the rationale?
I think that's a rhetorical question.
Okay.
No, what is the rationale?
Right.
For what reason do they have a reduced teaching
Curriculum
load?
instruction.
Thank you.
Observation evaluations. I do want to address, if I can, the foreign language
Whoa,
department.
whoa, 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dr. Sylvia, you all set?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Well,
Mike?
So, to reiterate, would you say that this is, you said it wasn't true,
That is correct.
but is it because, it sounds like,
If you
it
look at
sounds
where
like-
the information came from.
it sounds like you tried, but it didn't work out that way.
No, what I'm saying is, if you look in parentheses where the information came from, in my mind, departmental leaders. So what we have is, we have a difference of opinion about how somebody wants it done the way other people think it should be done. And so when they were interviewed and when they were part of the self-study, they gave documentation to put the blame on other people rather than taking the blame themselves. Now, that's my interpretation.
I can give you a concrete example of that, and that is the
Can we,
reference. May I?
I actually prefer you not. I think we're
Okay.
getting too close
Yes.
to
Okay.
the issue, and I'll leave that to the superintendent. But Mike, you still have the floor.
Yeah, and to get to Cliff's point, but you actually said it's happening. I mean, he had mentioned the curriculum leaders, the curriculum team. Could you elaborate on that, or perhaps who at the high school, the curriculum teams?
Each department has a representative that's a department head, and some department heads have multiple departments, and they have a reduced teaching load, and part of their job is curriculum, evaluation, observation, instruction, et cetera. So that's at our school. Different schools have different names and different job descriptions, but that's what's at the high school.
So in a de facto way, do they take the place of these other curriculum directors that you say other schools have that we don't?
The difference is that those are completely non-teaching positions that are K-12. So when you're talking about articulation, they would be looking at the elementary classrooms, they'd be looking at the middle school and at the high school. These particular people only work at the high school, so their zone of control, so to speak, is just with their department at the high school.
Okay, thank you.
In all of this, I think when Scott comes up with working with his team on next steps on the way to take care of these issues, that's when you'll see what the plans are. It's, I think, too preliminary to be able to say how we're going to take care of it. that is something that the high school, with coordination with central office, will be working on.
Continue, Scott, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to instruction. And 3.1 is, as you see, is in green. Provide a process through which all teachers routinely examine instructional practices to ensure adherence to the school's core values and beliefs and 21st century learning expectations in relation to their instructional practices. Provide common time for the formal decisions of strategies that include increased use of essential questions that require students to think critically. Provide and implement professional development in strategies to personalize instruction, enhance instruction with the use of technology, differentiate instruction, and the use of multiple types of formative assessments. Set aside scheduled formal time to examine summative and end-of-unit exams as well as formative assessment data to inform instruction. Provide a faculty-driven process to select professional development and content-specific instructional practice. So those are the recommendations for instruction. Do you want me to pause?
Please.
Okay.
Questions? Ken?
Well, I was going to question on the insufficient formal time, but you addressed that. That's something that's being worked on. My good comment here is on this one, and believe me, I have a lot of good comments in here. They're not all negative. All teachers provide additional support at both required biweekly and after-school extra help sessions and other non-mandated help sessions. That speaks volumes. I mean, some people might think that at the end of the day, the teachers just get up and leave. That part stood out to me, that they're going over and above to be assistants for the kids, and I just wanted to make that point.
Cliff?
This will be very, very brief. I think this area speaks for itself. The only area that I was concerned about, and actually I was surprised that it didn't play a more significant part of the recommendations, is the fact that through their observations, they felt that some of the teachers were not competent enough in dealing with the 21st learning expectations. And I found that a little disheartening. Hopefully the new evaluation system and so forth can work on that. But I would think that if we develop our 21st century learning expectations, that staff would be fairly competent in using them as they go through their instructional and pedagogical processes. But I think that the recommendations are clear. I think, again, it speaks to common planning time. Also, the part that I've always believed in, especially, and one of the things that I was in my consulting work about having staff input into their own professional development. I think that's very, very important. So if we can come up with a way in which we could have infused professional development and involve the staff and involve them directly in the professional development options, that would be good. Now, I know we've done that to a certain degree. I don't know what they're talking about here.
If I can just touch on two parts.
We both will comment on that, yes.
The part of the 21st century learning expectations, because it's ironic, Debbie and I had the same question when we had the chance to have a rebuttal.
Right.
It basically played into the technology piece.
All right.
And I know we're going to talk about that later on. So just so you know, because I said these people created these expectations, why are they not embracing them in the classroom? And it was more
that struck me very, very strangely.
Especially when they created it.
Correct.
Right. So that's the issue there. And I know Jan's going to talk about it, but I think it's important for people to realize that this process tied up almost 2 years worth of every available minute that we had. Early release, in-service, mandatory meetings that are all in the contract. We had, I believe it was maybe our third either early release or in service, most recently at the beginning of April. And we actually, and this was the plan all along, even before the report, was to try and use some staff-driven professional development. And I want to turn it over to Jan because we had some great collaboration and great ideas amongst the departments, department heads. And we had people walking out saying they thought it was the best PD day they've had, and some of these people have been there for 20. So, but I want to turn it over to Jan because obviously it was driven by Jan. So.
Thank you, Scott. We do both evaluations after training sessions, professional development, whether it's in service or early release, and then we do an online survey. That online survey was activated today for all faculty to both evaluate what has been done this year and to make suggestions for next year. And then those suggestions go back to our administrative team and back to each of the schools. The particular PD day that Scott is referring to was April 11th. And this built on, quite honestly, an early release day, an in service, I'm sorry, we had in January, where we had vertical teams meeting in the content-specific area. And these teachers out of those teams as the teachers met in the teams, they came up with suggestions of what they needed in training and what they would most like to have, and we prioritized it. That was shared with the principals. In turn, we're trying to balance building-based specific trainings as well as district trainings to meet some of our initiatives and our state and federal mandates. So the next day that was building-based was April 11th. And Scott and Debbie, just to use an old colloquialism, took the bull by the horns, got their department chairs together and said, okay, these are the priorities that came out of the meeting in January. Now, who do we have on staff and what can we set up to do? And they had a conference-type format with multiple offerings, some of it including technology, all of it including 21st century skills. And Scott has not heard this yet, nor has Dr. Rabinovich, because it occurred at our vertical science team meeting this afternoon at about 3:15. And one of the teachers who is slow to say or reluctant to say too much positive about any PD spoke up and said, I have to tell you, this is what I learned on April 11th. And that was the greatest thing because I sat with my colleagues and I discovered their expertise. And coming from this particular teacher is earth-shattering.
Sounds to me like you got half of your response to NEASC all done.
I don't know about half, but
Oh, in this particular area.
Oh, okay, in this area. And the good news about that whole PD, and Anna's going to appreciate this, there was no cost to the district because we used the professionals from within. So I think that's important as well.
Thank you.
I just have one quick thing. 3.1 is unacceptable. I'm all for teachers being introspective about their instructional practices, but if we are going to make sure that they are in fact adhering to the school's core values, beliefs, etc., as far as I'm concerned, it's the department heads that must make sure that is occurring. It is not good enough for us to rely on an introspective individual to examine themselves and then come up to the conclusion that they do or do not. So I would add to that 3.1 that we will make sure through appropriate leadership, supervision, etc., that this is taking place. Do you concur?
I do, and I think this is, as you've been involved, as we have kind of repositioned department heads and changed their job description, I think that instructional piece has come through as part of the evaluation and observation.
Exactly. And I'm not criticizing you, I'm criticizing their recommendation because I think it's poorly worded and assumes that this is going to be part of self-reflection and not part of the leadership within the high school management.
Right.
Continue. Whoops.
You didn't go down this line for this section.
I wasn't going down any line.
Yeah. Sure, you started. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
If you have some thoughts, but first I'm going to hear from Mike since you've been monopolizing the conversation.
Play nice, children.
Good. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm all set.
You're all set?
Yeah.
The way that I saw this section was that, and when we spoke to the folks from NEOS, they were going into many of the classrooms and they were sitting there and they were evaluating. I thought at that time, and I feel with their feedback here, what an amazing opportunity. An amazing opportunity if they gave you the information of the classrooms that they were in and the teachers that they were evaluating, and they basically had a score sheet, the new evaluation tool, and they went down, and basically you had 1 year and with some of the instructors to be able to have an evaluation on there. I know we have this report generally about the classes that they did go into. Do you have specific do you have information on the actual classes that they did go into?
Well, we know which classes they went into, but I can't attest. I mean, they went into hundreds of classrooms throughout the 3-day visit. I can't attest to which classrooms they had a concern for 3.1, but I can tell you that through our new evaluation system, we have department heads that go through, and they have different lenses they're looking at through their walkthroughs. And I know that this is a lens that they use when they walk through. They're looking for, 21st century learning expectations. Are they being exhibited in the lesson? So there's different lenses that they use when they walk through. But there would be no way to find out. And furthermore, I'd have a stack of grievances this high if I was able to find out. But there's different ways to accomplish, I think, what you're getting at. And I think it truly is the walkthroughs and just the department heads being out there and knowing what's going on in their departments during their free time.
And it is the next point that I was going to make too. I wanted to ask the question again, and I'll probably ask it every single time you come up here, is do you feel that you have the right infrastructure and the right people in the roles that have been laid out to accomplish some of the big tasks that you have in front of you?
I think I have the right infrastructure. I think there's certainly work that needs to be done on everyone's part, myself included. But I do think that from an instructional standpoint and a curriculum standpoint, I finally this year feel that I have, in looking at what my predecessors had, I feel that I have the right infrastructure.
And I actually apologize. I did say people. I was going to say tools to be able to evaluate. That's what I meant. And after I saw him and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I said the wrong. It is the tools, the infrastructure, and then also the tools for evaluating, for rewarding, because it seems like it's in the paper or a magazine every single time that I pick up something that talks about you could have you have the instruction that you have, you can continue to improve the curriculum, but there is so much that goes into the individual that's teaching that class that when it comes to the outcomes of a child. And I just want to make sure that we're continuing to provide not only the administration, but also the instructors that are in the classroom, what they need to be able to be what they can be.
Right, and I think the new evaluation system and the Inform that I know Mr. Lozan brought forth to you folks, I think those are two important tools in accomplishing everything that you just talked about.
Okay, thanks.
My only comment is, I would share what you said if we had the budget that we asked for, which was $2 million over what we have. So even if we get the 780 and the 341, okay, that is $1.1 million. That's $900,000 cut out of this budget, and some of that is coming out of that structure at the high school. So, you can't keep cutting and think that you're going to keep making progress, because every time we take something away, you have to find another way to do it and reorganize. So there are a lot of things that we will keep, but the structure that he has may not look the same after $980,000 cut.
Cliff, can I make one brief thing? I know I had my turn. One of the things that I was going to start my comments with, because I like to start with positives, is as I read through this, there's some really, really good things going on at that high school in terms of instruction. I think that we've made incredible progress, particularly in assessment, especially performance-based assessments. And I know we're continuing to work on the development of departmental common assessments. So I think that even though they did highlight some areas, like the use of rubrics and a couple of the areas that I was really surprised that the rubrics weren't even developed yet, like technology, although our technology is lousy, but I think that I would be remiss if I didn't say that in reading this section on instruction, that I thought that they got a pretty good feel for the positive things that are happening in the classroom. So, and I think that I would be remiss if I didn't point that out. As you read through this, and you read through it critically, you see that in some areas, I think we're so far ahead of other high schools, and we're always being compared as, not stacking up. Well, I'll tell you right now, in this area, just my professional opinion, we could stack up with anybody. I think that the instruction and the things that we're doing in assessment over there are cutting edge, especially those capstone activities. So I wanted to start off my comments by saying that, and please forgive me for not doing that.
The one thing I forgot to mention in my earlier comments about the conference that caught me by total surprise was the number of states that are moving en masse to merit pay. Now, I personally think it's going to be a disaster because they're not prepared for it from an organization, infrastructure, evaluation system perspective. But it is being mandated in a surprising number of locations. And while I don't think we're ready for it, I think the day will come because we now have the infrastructure, assuming we can maintain it with respect to our budget, which is an important issue. But it's coming. Whether it's in time or whether it's timely or not, it seems to be coming.
That will be a fight for another day.
Oh, yeah. Please continue.
Okay. We'll go on to assessment of and for student learning. Improve the vertical curriculum articulation in all disciplines. I know we've mentioned that before. Provide teachers regular, formal, dedicated time to discuss all forms of student assessment. Increase the use of both formative and summative assessments to improve instruction in all classes. Ensure that all teachers provide all students with corresponding rubrics prior to the summative assessment. Formally communicate the 21st century learning goals and the related specific learning goals prior to the unit of study. Implement a process to communicate individual achievement of the school's learning expectations to students and their families. Communicate school-wide achievement of the school's learning expectations to the school community. Develop and implement a method to measure and communicate individual student progress relevant to the school's learning expectations regularly to parents.
Mike.
No,
Rhonda?
I think one of the concerns that I had here, and again, well, let me start off by saying, these recommendations, do you strongly disagree with any of them that are on here?
I don't think strongly, no.
Okay. So, providing teachers regular, formal, dedicated time to discuss all forms of student assessment. Regular, formal, dedicated time. Are we not doing that? Does that have to go with the scheduling piece again?
To a point. What we were able to do a month into this NEAS visit was change the whole schedule, and we now have the common planning time that we didn't have. Common prep time is what it's officially called. So that's something that we have been able to utilize, and quite frankly, department heads have really grabbed the bull by the horns here and taken care of this. Certainly, there's more room for us to improve on that. There's also this, again, a bit of this ties into money, because to ask people to stay on an off day in June or maybe even in August when we get the results, it does cost money to bring people in. So that it's something we're working on. It's something that, the contract, we do have some full professional days, and again, now that Jan and I are able to work through some of these, we no longer are tied up every in-service, every early release. We do dedicate one day in September for this, and I think what you'll see is now that we have some time freed up, we'll continue to be able to use the early release and in-service time for that.
I think what they're talking about, we do, as a district, a data conference day with every staff, every faculty member to tear apart MCAS. That's not enough. And yet that's more than many districts do, but it is not enough. What they're talking about here is ongoing collaboration and common planning to review assessments and redesign instruction to meet students' needs. And that takes additional time, and it is a fiscal impact when you add to a teacher's day to do that.
But I do want to say, again, and I feel like a broken record, Inform is going to help us out tremendously with this, because where before we either had to use an antiquated system that the state provided, no fault to us, our school system, or had to sit there and just go through the grid and make our own matrix as far as where kids were deficient. This new system is going to save us a lot of time, and quite frankly, a lot of time that the department heads had to use to create these matrix.
So, thank you for that. The only other thing that kind of jumped out once we got your color-coded version was 4.7 and 4.8. Why those are in yellow, not green, when really what you're talking about is just better communication, which it can be done without money.
It can.
Especially 4.7. 4.8, you know, again, they talk about measurement and things like that if we don't have the right tools. So, I mean, really, my comment is about 4.7, which is just communicating school-wide achievements.
The committee felt that there needed to be something to entice people into the building. And I know it was mentioned with Christine that she was going to do a pasta dinner, and so that was kind of where they were looking at, to get people excited. There's different ways you have to communicate that, different ways to get people into the building, so that's kind of what they were looking at. There was a lot of conversation on whether this should have been green, yellow, and we felt that it's something that with more effort than anything, a little bit of money, this is something we can get people into the building, get them excited. What we found with our 8th grade orientation, when we didn't have an ice cream social, our numbers were cut in half as far as the number of people that showed up. We bring the ice cream social, and it tells. I mean, you know, I'm Italian, so you feed us and we're going to show up.
I work at a nonprofit. Every single time when we say, "Oh, you know, the tide's turning, we don't need food," we always need food.
You need food. So that was what the rollout committee felt was a need to be able to make that communication.
Thank you.
Get Barry to make linguiça sandwiches.
Jessica?
I just wanted to comment on 4.4, which is ensuring that all teachers provide all students with corresponding rubrics prior to summative assessments. I know personally, I've always been given a rubric, whether it be for a book report, a group project, a lab report, going up in Spanish class and saying something in Spanish. We've always been given rubrics. So to me, that is shocking to see on there, because I know that my peers, along with myself, find the rubrics very helpful, so that because you may be given the outline of the assignment, but now you know specifically what the teacher is looking for, what you will actually be graded on, and to me it was shocking to see that, because I've always been given a rubric.
All it takes is one observation by the SNEAS committee to see that there was an assessment and a rubric wasn't given out, and there it is.
But we have certain areas in which the rubrics haven't been developed yet, is that correct?
That's true.
So,
Cliff?
yeah, again, this is like a true or false. And this information is on page 40, and it came from the school culture leadership committees, school leaders, and principal. And it's the first paragraph, going down a couple lines. When available, teachers attend outside professional development opportunities and use resources such as the internet to maintain currency with best practice. Generally, these opportunities are content-specific, and there is less opportunity for school-wide focus. Limited formal time is dedicated to implement building-based professional development within the school calendar, and there is no process by which teachers have input into the planning of professional. We've already talked about that. The inconsistency of the offerings and the lack of formal opportunities for professional discourse between the principal and professional staff in all areas of professional development and best practice resources may greatly inhibit the application of skills, practice, and ideas to improve curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Well, obviously, somebody from the outside reading this would be bothered by it. But yet this information came from the internal review. I guess I'm asking, is it true?
For 2
Is
years
it false, or is it almost true or almost false?
For 2 years it was true.
It was?
Well, we were tied up for 2 years.
Okay.
And that's a frustration on my part.
And you think that that's what they're commenting
I
on
know
now?
it's what they're commenting about.
You know that's what it is? Okay, so
Because
they talk about it.
I'm listed here. I was one of the ones who was
I know,
complaining
I saw
about
that.
the amount of time that
Right.
this NEAS process took.
Okay.
And how we basically shut down curriculum revisions, curriculum evaluation, everything was shut down.
Right.
And Jan, she was jumping up and down with us as well, because she finally said, now I can get some PD in the high school.
Okay, and the second one is also on page 40. third paragraph, a couple of sentences into it. There are also opportunities for teachers to utilize collaborative learning and inquiry-based instruction with their students. However, formal common planning time. Now this, the team is saying this. However, formal common planning time to review student work, which I think is absolutely mandatory and necessary, to review student work and analyze data is not provided. Not only does this limit communication within departments, it limits cross-curricular collaboration. The lack of time for professional collaboration among teachers may inhibit teachers' continued ability to meet the learning needs of the students. Again, that statement bothers me because they came into a building that had a brand new schedule that had scheduled in common planning time. So why would they even make a statement like that?
Because I believe it's not formal, it's common prep time.
Okay, so we don't have a formal program for evaluating student work or curriculum development.
It's
In
done
terms
during,
of the,
it's
in
done
terms
during
of utilizing the common prep time.
Right. Utilizing the common prep, that's correct.
So in other words, the common prep time is left completely to the discretion of the professional staff on how they utilize it.
Right. And I would say,
Contractually.
to you,
Okay, well,
if
we have to
you,
negotiate.
if you come in during every period, there's one department that's off, and it alternates, it's
Right.
every other day, you will see the departments utilize that time. And again, it's contractually, they don't have to force it.
I understand.
But I will say that we have a very professional staff, and if you were there at that time where there's a department meeting during their prep time, this goes on very often at the high school.
Well, I would hope that that would be the case, because having common planning time is an incredible tool, an incredible professional growth tool, and it's also an incredible tool for evaluating student work. I found it strange that that verbiage was in the report. Thank you.
All right.
Just as a footnote to that, when there's great academic success, these kinds of issues tend not to be talked about. They're always used as, well, if the learning isn't happening, therefore X, Y, Z, A, B, C must not be occurring. And they pick out things like common planning time and collaboration and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if it is happening and we're getting good success, and frankly, the high school is getting good success, it seems to me for them to make an issue about something that isn't formal, but informally it's actually working and it's effective, I'm not all that, I don't find it all that compelling, the comment they're making, I guess, is the bottom line. Because lots of professionals, highly professional person finds a way to be successful, and they don't have to be formally told how to do it. So I think it's somewhat disrespectful on the part of NEAS to be talking about this, given the high school is, in fact, has a fine record. But continue.
Thank you. School culture and leadership. Ensure the establishment of a more formal advisory curriculum that focuses on building strong student-teacher relationships. Provide increased formal time separate from individual preparation time for teachers to collaborate on topics involving teaching and learning both within their content areas and across content areas. Involve teachers in the planning and implementation of their professional development. Ensure that students' load and class size enables all teachers to meet the learning needs of individual students in all courses. Ensure that teachers, in addition to students and parents, have meaningful input into the decision-making process.
Ken?
On the school culture and leadership, right?
Yes.
The one thing that stood out is over 400 students participating in extracurricular activities and athletics. And their comment was, student involvement is so consistent that irregular after-school buses are almost empty, so it shows a good commitment to extracurricular activities, and I know we talk about that when we talk about cuts And that's one area that, I think we really have to focus on. But what I wanted to give kudos to was teachers are often available beyond the contractual day to support student and school achievement. The dedication of the teachers' focus in supporting students through their own leadership and initiatives promotes a positive school culture and leads to the increased engagement of students in the learning process. Student shadowing, teachers, classroom observations. So there are a lot of good things that are going on. A lot of times we pick out some of the negatives, which are usually the good, juicy stuff to talk about. But I don't think that enough credit, and I'm not saying from the school side, is given to a lot of things that the teachers are doing. Especially, it seems like when I read this, a lot is on their own time. So again, I have to take my hat off to some of the things that they're doing. And there were a lot of good comments in that entire school culture and leadership. So I don't have anything else, Mr. Chair.
Good.
I'm all set.
Rhonda?
One of the things that I really liked in the report is where it said there's a formal ongoing program through which each student has an adult in the school in addition to school counselor who knows the student well and assists the student in achieving the school's 21st century learning. I know that it's even more than that, and the program that you've put in place at the high school is that every student knows that they have, in addition to their counselor, somebody that they can go to, and you foster that, and that is just so important in this day and age. And so I'm glad that they recognize that. And I'm glad that that program is there. What are your thoughts around how they talk about that the program lacks formality and that there's no established curriculum? I don't know if that was the main reason why it was created, or if that's where you see that kind of program going, that in addition to that student knowing that they have an individual that they can go to in the school besides a counselor, that really putting more formality around that and creating that as more of a mentorship or a curriculum director for the student in a way.
This is something that we addressed with the chairperson when the report first came out to us, because we do feel that we, at this point in time, we do have a more formal advisory curriculum. We do have a curriculum committee in place for advisory now. We didn't have that when they were here. Okay. Last year was the first year that we did put it in place. We did not have the funding to put a committee together. In all honesty, it was pretty much me getting things ready on a daily basis for handouts, putting them in mailboxes for teachers. Again, contractually, we couldn't ask teachers to teach another class per se, so we had to provide the materials for them. As of September, there is an established paid committee together that they meet once a month, and there is a calendar, and there are themes that we have each month that address each grade level. We have representation from different departments, including our guidance department as well, and we do have a more formal advisory curriculum in place right now. And when we did address that, because we didn't want that as one of our recommendations, again, we were told, don't worry about it. When you write your two-year report, just tell them what you just told me, and it stayed. So.
Right, yeah, because they talk about calendaring in there, and so it's
right.
in place.
The important thing to realize, I think, is when they come in here, they have a lens where they want to see an established advisory program, and I think it truly takes 3 years to get it up and running. And so we're halfway through that 3-year period, and I think we are definitely on the right track. I can't tell you how helpful this has been from a discipline standpoint, just a relationship standpoint, and just being able to have great conversations with kids about the curriculum, about what's going on in their lives. And we've had kids come back and tell us things that I can't repeat here, but it's allowed for that great communication to happen between that adult that you already identified and the student. So it's been
really
it's
proud
been awesome.
that the school system has that program in place at the high school.
Thanks.
And Mr. Palladino, where did you get the idea for that?
Oh,
There was a middle school principal that implemented it about 15 years ago, and I asked for his curriculum, and being that he was my direct supervisor, Dr. Binovich was
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore.
nice enough to give us that curriculum. So it's interesting how things come back, though, 15 years later, and here we are.
Good thing it was successful.
It was successful. That certainly gave it some
He
merit,
wouldn't have
obviously.
brought it up if it wasn't.
Mike?
Speaking of your supervisor, I'm going to give us double kudos here, I think, actually. The last sentence. The decision-making authority given to the principal by the district leadership provides an unobstructed environment in which to improve teaching and learning. And that tells me that, you're not being micromanaged. You have the trust of your supervisor to do the job. And I know I spoke with you before, during the election to get an idea of how things were working at the high school and stuff. And you went on about how you've collaborated with the teachers, and you've got a lot. It took some work. You got some union buy-in for certain things, and things are really shaping up there. And I just want to say kudos.
Thanks, and we're hoping we can keep it together. I mean, this is obviously a tough time for us, and we're just hoping to keep what we have established. I think we're heading in the right direction. There's certainly some work to do as we move forward, but we're really hoping to be able to keep the infrastructure that we have in place, because we think, and the staff included, that we're heading in the right direction.
That's it.
I have to ask about 5.4.
I knew you were going to ask about
You
that.
knew I would ask
I
about
looked
that.
right at you when I read it.
And I'm actually curious as to what they had to say about this subject. Meaning, do they have a certain rubric, if you will, about what kind of caseloads, student loads, class sizes, et cetera, is in fact acceptable? Because we know for certain all over the country these are being, class sizes are rising, not just the state of Massachusetts. What did they have to say about this subject?
While they didn't give us a specific number, they were happy with our class size. And I want to reiterate, the reason they were happy with that is because our teachers, through negotiations, agreed to take on one more class. So while they don't give us a specific number, I would say, if we're hovering in the 30s, or even as far as guidance, if we're looking at, a caseload of 300 plus, they'd be concerned. But they were happy with where we were at, and they were very happy with what we've done with guidance. They were very happy with what we've done as far as changing the schedule and keeping the class size at, I believe it was for their visit, I think it was in the low 20s, 20, 22, 23, 24, in that range.
So now I'm going to ask the impossible.
The loaded question.
The loaded, impossible question.
And I know what it's going to be.
They loved your infrastructure, right?
They did.
Class deans, department heads functioning that way, et cetera, et cetera. They wouldn't want to see any of that change, right?
Right.
Right? And they don't want the class sizes to rise, right?
Right. Correct.
Did they give you any insight as to if you had to choose between one or the other, which direction would be more acceptable?
As far as
Keeping the deans
staffing
or-
changes, or,
Yes,
or
would it-
keeping the deans, or?
Well, no, I was just saying, would they say, your infrastructure is too important, therefore, if you have to do something, I guess we can live with increased class sizes, or if you have to do something, class sizes are sacrosanct, you'll have to do something about your infrastructure.
They don't do that.
They will not guide us.
They don't guide you.
in that manner, but I will tell you that any change that is made is a substantive change, and we're required to report out to them within 60 days of those changes. And that is, basically, if we eliminate any class, fine arts, practical arts, student activities, if we cut a custodian, if we have a decrease in funding, if we have a cut to the supervisory staffing.
I get the idea.
So on and so forth. So they will never tell us how to run our building. Just as Dr. Rabinovich will never tell me this is what you have to do. He'll give me a number and say you need to make the
Right.
adjustment. And you live and die by that. But they will not give us this is what you should do.
But they gave you the strong impression that the class sizes that we in fact might face if you had to reduce the number of teachers you have, they would consider that to be approaching or achieving a level of unacceptable caseloads for the teachers.
I think it's more of a class size issue
Class
than a
size.
caseload issue, right?
Well, if he loses staff, that's a substantive change you'd have to
No,
report
I understand
anyways.
that. I understand.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Please
Thank you.
continue. I'm
No,
sorry,
could
Cliff.
I just ask one quick
Yes,
I know
sure.
I passed the last time.
Don't worry about it.
One of the things that Kenny just pointed to me, and I did read it, was, and I think we should make it public too, they liked the format of the block, from what I gathered.
Right.
It provided, by going to block and the strategies of the block, it provided lower class size.
Correct.
And they liked that. And the other thing too that is very, very important for people to understand, our teachers are teaching 20% more for absolutely zero reimbursement.
Correct.
Because every teacher went from teaching 5 to teaching 6.
Correct.
So, and that went a long way, number one, to compensate for the staff loss, number one, and number two, for reducing class size.
Right.
So I think that had to be pointed out, and they did write about it in this section.
I have my list since 1993 of all the positions we've lost, and it's 2 pages, so.
2 pages since
93.
1993. 2 pages of staff cuts.
And that's cuts, that's not attrition, that's cuts.
Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Okay, continue, please.
Okay, school resources for learning. Establish a regular meeting schedule for the TAC team to ensure that directive intervention strategies are timely and coordinated. Develop and implement a more reliable way of ensuring the delivery of information about support services to families. Provide technology resources and professional development necessary to implement the Naviance system, and update and expand student access to the media center, circulation, and catalog system. Ensure that support staff members have consistent, reliable access to functioning computers and internet sources. Provide support to school counselors to allow them to fully implement school counseling services. Provide a formal assessment to evaluate the effectiveness of the guidance curriculum and library/media services. Update the print collection in the library. Provide an adequate supply of working computers for school-wide access to electronic library, media resources, and curriculum integration. Provide sufficient scheduling time for collaboration and communication between inclusion teachers and special education teachers.
Money, money, money.
An awful lot of red there.
There
Go
is.
ahead, Rhonda.
I'm trying to get a green one on there. I really am. And so,
Yellow's not far from green, remember that.
okay. Yeah, because 6.2, when I look at develop and implement a more reliable way of ensuring the delivery of information, I'm thinking a resource guide. I don't know if that's what they were looking for. I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit on that. But when I saw that one, I was like, that one.
I mean, it's basically just, again, going back to that communication, making sure that families understand what we offer and what we, because I think, as you can probably attest to, the elementary level, the parents are very excited. They know everything that's going on in the elementary school, middle school. They're still somewhat involved. They start to drift off. And at high school, the kids are saying, "Oh, we're all set. We don't, you don't need to go to open house, this and that." So trying to come up with creative ways, and again, I kind of talked about this before, to get the parents into the building, because an active parent, an involved parent, for us is going to mean the student is being held accounted for. So it's how can we get people in the building to know the services we offer. For instance, we have a grant where we have an outside agency that's in there 2 days a week that will fill out the college application with the student, with the parent, fill out the financial aid form, the FAFSA, to get them a PIN number, go through the whole thing with them. And how do we get that information out to the parents to make sure they know these are services that are provided? And that's, again, the team felt there needs to be a little bit of money. This maybe should be a little yellow shaded with a little green, but it's something that they felt they were very strong about. Getting the people in there is going to require something to entice them to come in. Guest speakers, food, just so that's where we're at with that.
I know I'll have more comments after the special election if it happens. But I know it's about money. I know this whole entire section is we need more money. I mean, we can all sit here and scream and pound our fists, and we know that we need more money as a district. I know it, and I think that every single person is fighting for that. On this committee, the turnout at town meeting, that there are many people that are fighting for that. I would like us to continue with that, looking at creative ways to solve many of the recommendations that are on here. I mean, I think that it just a never give up kind of attitude. Sometimes at the end of the day, again, after the election, we'll know exactly what we have. I don't want to just write these off saying they're yellow and red. We'll wait till next year and see what kind of.
Right.
So I'm hoping that we just continue on with those kinds of things also. But I know Dr. Rabinovich will, tap his foot, or if I don't say it again, that this whole entire section is about money, and we're not providing an adequate level of funding for our schools. We're just not, and we need it.
Right.
Since I had to endure this, I literally, have one of those drop jaw moments at this conference. Someone innocently asked this suburb of Chicago, we're a suburb of Boston, we are. Someone said, by the way, what's your budget? And they were a district of 4,500 students. So for everybody, that's about 50% bigger than we are.
No, only 1,500 more.
I'm sorry, they're 50% bigger than we are. 3,000 to 4,500 is 50%.
50%.
Okay.
Okay? Anyway, I thought I got the math right. Anyway, and they calmly said, 145 million. And I did one of these.
Okay, so that's all.
What? And I literally
I
asked
can
them.
do it for that.
I literally asked them to repeat the answer. I thought there must be a decimal point. Something was wrong, right? Oh no, 145 million. And I said, you realize, and I quickly did the calculation. You realize that's $32,000 per student. And they said, yeah, but that includes a little debt. Of course, we don't have any debt, so as far as I was concerned, it was still $32,000 per student. It's amazing the resources that some districts have around the country. Just unbelievable.
Even around the state.
And around the state, yes. But I happen to know this place. I used to go there for business. This is not some wealthy community. This is not the Weston of Chicago. This is a middle-class community. And here's the rub. 6% of that comes from the state. The rest of it is property tax funded. Sorry to go on, but I just had to share the pain.
We shared the pain yesterday. Christian and the folks from WCTV had an opportunity to go to another school, and it was amazing. And we're trying to get some ideas on how to implement this plan, and certainly working with WCTV, sometimes it is frustrating when you hear the stories and when you go to the places and you see what other places have.
I need to add one more piece of much more relevant information. People should understand, we talk about the quirky demographics of Wareham, and quirky may be a strange word to use, but it's somewhat different. Our two neighbors, Middleborough and Carver, just so that people understand, our budget is supported by the state at a level of 42%. Middleborough and Carver's budget is supported at 52%. 10% more. That 10% more would provide us, drum roll, $3 million. That would make our superintendent really happy, okay? And why don't we have that? Because of the formula that penalizes us for the fact that we have wealthy people living on the water with all our coastline. Now, here's another piece of information which I found equally startling. And I think I sent this to the committee. As information only, we did not deliberate on it. So, they get 10% more in funding, okay? 52% versus our 42%. We are 46% low income, and they are, respectively, 20 and 25%. That's really a phenomenal thing to understand and how abused, that's the only word that comes to mind, we are by this state formula. So it is not our taxpayers that are the problem. It is not our citizens' lack of generosity. It's the fact that the formula fundamentally penalizes the quirky demographics of Wareham. And I wish I could say I had a solution for this, but once again, I'm sharing the pain. Sorry, go ahead.
Are there any other questions on 6?
Yes,
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Mike, sorry.
Sure. We, coincidentally, the one debt exclusion article that did come up was the technology. And I guess my question is, will the high school, provided that passes all the hurdles, will the high school portion of that address all of these shortcomings that it mentions regarding technology?
No. What has to happen is we're currently putting together all of the needs of the district. And so we have some things that are in process. So that $341,000, we need literacy materials for the new curriculum that we implemented this year at the elementary school. I need to buy those. Now, I can't tell you exactly how many dollars that's going to be. We're going to have to look at what it is. The math curriculum that's going to happen, that is going to be X dollars for, and, we'll look, maybe we're only going to get classroom sets, and we'll see what that costs, and we may go with some online. And then we have, and some of the people on the committee, for a long time, one of the things middle school and high school has had is that parents have been able to go on to Power School and look at a list of assignments for their children. We would like to do that at the elementary. We have been starting to move in that direction. To do it, the teachers who have to put it in need new computers. So all of those things I have to prioritize along with the high school's needs. And to answer you, there's not enough in that to take care of it all.
So very little, if any, of that technology money in that debt exclusion article will go toward what's being addressed in this report?
Some of it will. Now, having said that, what we're trying to do with all of these initiatives, all of the needs of the district, Jan, Bob, myself, and Anna have been having multiple meetings where we're looking at every single one of our grants to see if we can find funding sources for these needs. But first we have to flush out and prioritize the needs. Then we come up with it, and then we're still going to be short, but we will then know what we're going to advocate for next.
Okay.
It's important to understand, because I know it came up at town meeting, I guess it was last night. The debt exclusion for the technology and the textbooks was never intended to be a debt exclusion. It was intended to be part of our operating budget, and therefore it was not considered, we weren't trying to get everything we needed, we were just trying to get a minimum just to maintain, essentially.
Yeah, no, I remember that, but I remember all the budget discussions, and Mr. DiFilippo was given, presentations saying how old the computers were and average
The
age.
ABC issue.
Yeah,
Yes.
and is this going to address any of that?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it will.
Yes.
All right, and some of those will be high school computers.
Yes.
Yes, okay, yeah.
My
That's
point
where
in
I was
bringing
getting
that
at,
up
yeah.
was, if we were going to go full board to bring us up to, I hate to use the word state of the art, but to a high level of technological sufficiency, that would have been a debt exclusion, and it would have been significantly more than we asked for. And it would not have been part of the operating budget, because it would have been a one-shot deal that would have lasted 5 or more years. So people need to understand, this is essentially part of the operating budget that people were asked to provide, and then we converted it to a debt exclusion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Cliff?
Yeah, I'd like to go back one, just for a quick comment. On the Naviance program that we bought for the guidance department, And they made a statement in here that we bought the program, it's not been fully implemented because we don't have the technical capacity to implement it. Well, I certainly have a problem with buying something that we're not technically capable to deliver on. So,
Yeah, I think the issue there.
that kind of bothered me a little bit.
And it bothered me, but it was what it was at that point in time. And here's what you need to know. We purchased that over the summer, received it in September. We were having trouble having the Navions speak to the Power School. They weren't very compatible. Since then, not only have we got it up and running, we've been able to meet with every senior and put them in the system, because as you all remember, one of our goals was using this as a technology to track our graduates. So we have at this point the capability of doing that. Now, moving forward, the next step is to try and get the whole system paperless, so that applications, transcripts, letters of recommendation are all being set through this Naviance. And at the same point in time, we're able to track where these kids are going, where we're getting
That's all I
requests,
needed.
SAT scores, et cetera.
Okay, I understand.
So it's a great system, and if there's a ton of schools in the state that are using this, and it's really cutting edge. And I'm excited because I get the calls, such and such school didn't get my transcripts. Call down to guidance. I sent that out in the mail 3 weeks ago. Well, now, we've got it here, and we can say to the parent, no, it's not the transcripts, it's the fact that your son hasn't filled out the application properly.
Right. No, that's great. All right, getting to community resources for learning. There's a couple of things that I'd like to say, and I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. I know the hour's late, and I really do appreciate all of you being here tonight. You know, you said you have to respond to two-thirds of this. No, by 18, you have 18 months to respond to two-thirds.
One-third.
One-third. I'm sorry, one-third. Well, I can tell you right now, they're not going to let you get away with not responding to some of these. Some of
Right.
Section 7.
Right.
I'll guarantee you that. So even though you have a choice of what third to choose, they're not going to be real happy if we don't respond to one of these. So I guess my question is, or my comment is,
Do you want me to go through these first before we
Go
comment
through
on
what?
this? Standard 7?
I thought we did.
No.
Oh, we haven't done that yet?
That was 6. Would you like to hold your thought?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm
But we
really
have it all
sorry.
in front of us,
Well-
and it's been up there for a while. I think that, I mean,
All
because
right,
you're
threw me
reading
off.
it, and so I think we're.
Just want to
And
go
then,
through it?
well,
Yeah.
getting back to, again, the formula and the funding and all that kind of stuff. I understand it all, but you know what? We still, as a local community, are saddled with the responsibility of funding public education. That is our responsibility as citizens of Wareham. Yes, the state with their unfunded mandates, the state with their idiotic formula, and we can go on and on and on and on with the feds with their mandate. It's all part of the problem. But when you slice through it, ultimately, it is our responsibility to fund public education. And you know what? The buck stops with us. It does. So, you know, we can kick the can all we want, but the buck stops with us.
Cliff, I have to respectfully disagree.
What?
The Supreme Court said that's not true.
What's not true?
The Supreme Court says the education of children is a municipal and state
Oh,
responsibility.
I understand. But you know what? If the state's not giving us the money, what are we going to say? We're not going to do it? They're not going to hold us to that standard.
I
Jeff.
understand, but what I'm saying is the failure is real on the state's part.
I said that. I understand all that. But when the rubber meets the road, it's our responsibility to do the best we can for our kids.
I completely agree with, and you know I completely agree, but I understand the frustration of the taxpayers because the state has failed them.
I understand that, but I'm talking about ongoing. We've got a couple of initiatives going to have to be voted on, I hope, you know, and it's still our ballgame.
I agree, but I don't want, and I know we're getting off topic here, but I don't want, when this debate occurs, and it will inevitably occur, when this debate occurs, I don't think anybody should be the villain in the debate in that room.
I'm not making a villain. I'm just saying
I
it's
know.
my responsibility as a taxpayer in Wareham.
You're partly responsible.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Ken,
No, I'm just glad the two of you understand.
you're hearing frustration. Anything else on 7?
I'm all
I ju-
set.
I just
No,
want to,
Not 7. 6. We haven't done 7 yet, right?
No, we were
No,
just
we're
talking
doing
about
seven.
seven.
We're doing
Oh,
seven.
we're doing 7
Seven,
now?
we're doing-
I'm sorry. Have you done those recommendations yet?
I haven't, maybe just because they're hard to pick up, maybe I should read them just for the.
All right.
for the- No,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
No.
No.
I think we're
just
all
let
set.
that- let-
All right.
I think we're all set.
Oh,
As
so can
long
we
as-
talk to 7 now?
Excuse me?
Can we talk to 7 now?
You were just talking about community resources
I know.
for learning.
All right, well, I had a couple other things to say, but it's all right,
You sure?
yeah. No, it's all right. It's just, you know, we're just, if, I don't know. We've just been underfunding education in this town for so long that we just sort of gotten used to it. And I guess what I'm saying is we gotta get ourselves unused to it, so.
The
That's
only
all.
comment I'll make on 7 will be brief, and that is the concept that frankly I've been talking about since I've been on the school committee. Around the country, they have a new alphabet soup here. It's called ILP. Now I get to ask you if you know what an ILP is. No, I'm just kidding. But individual learning plan, and it's designed for every student in the district. And what's fascinating about it is it includes a visit with the teacher and the student and the parent on an annual basis to say this is where your child is. Here's what's really interesting. One high school that described it said they have these visits at the end of the 8th grade, leading into the 9th grade, and they are literally saying to them, based on our assessment of where your child is, these are the remedial things that your child are going to have to take in order to be prepared to be successful in our high school. And it's like the parents are blown away, and it's pressuring the middle school, which then pressures the elementary school. It's a very healthy, constructive process, and I love it. But I'm just planting a seed, and I don't want to talk about it, okay? Because we don't have time. We don't have time to talk about it. Unless anybody has anything else, I want to thank you very, very much for your time. I don't want you to think that all of this discussion was anything but constructive, and we're grateful for the job that you're doing, and we think you deserve a lot of kudos, and we have not forgotten there were a lot of commendations in that report.
If I could just, 2 slides and I'll be done. I just want to recognize the follow-up committee, Craig Berrialt, Andrea Cannon, Judy Debonese, Charlene Deneen, Amy Dion, Debbie Freitas, Megan Kajna, Mike Murray, Steve Rumbold, Cindy Sylvia, and myself. Basically, we have a cross-representation of every department in the building, and I just want to touch upon, and I know we've talked about this, but we're going to continue. I think we're pretty much at the end of rolling out the report. We'll now have the report on our website, and that'll be available to the public as well. We're going to prioritize our recommendations. Obviously, we're looking at the green area first, and we're going to draft a plan of action. We will have a special report due in February. We should know about that this week, and we're going to start to, in the next month, establish a 2-year reporting committee. We will post it, and we will probably shrink down the size of that committee a little bit, and some of those names I mentioned may be involved in it. And last, probably most importantly, I want to thank Debbie. Her and Chris Mars were the co-chairs for this NEAS visit and evaluation, and as you have mentioned, I kind of came through midway, so it was great to have Debbie there and Chris as well, to make sure we could finish this thing off. And I think it's important to mention we are accredited. We had more commendations than recommendations. Obviously, as when Debbie and I dissected this, we spent the time looking at the recommendations, and as the bulk of our conversation has been on the recommendations, it's important to remember this was 11 years in the making for the most part. This didn't just happen overnight, and our expectation is we're not going to fix this overnight. It's going to take some time. Funding is an issue. It's not the only issue, but it's certainly going to make things right pretty quickly, and we're really keeping our fingers crossed on the operational override and the 2.5 override, because I really believe that we're heading in the right direction here. We have things in place. And you know, as Jessica mentioned, you know, things are going in the right direction, and I hope we can keep it going, because Debbie and I are very invested in this town and the community, and we're excited about the way things are going. So thank you.
Thank you. Mike has a final question.
Yes.
Yeah, actually,
Before that, Mr. Chair, I need to make a motion to go past the hour of 10.
Second.
Any further discussion? We will quickly complete the agenda, I promise. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.
Okay. I just had missed something on section 1 that I wanted to ask. It says here on page 17, additionally, graduation requirements increased from 115 credits to 130 credits for the class of 2014 and beyond. And how are we on track with that?
As we speak right now?
Yes.
We're on track. I may be in front of you in June saying we need to bring that back down to 115. Because if I have to put study halls in place,
Yeah.
it won't be, we're increasing 5 credits every year.
So this graduating class is doing how many credits?
This graduating class is 115, 2013 will be 120.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry, it's been suggested by my esteemed vice chair that Barry give his report and we make written comments to me, and then I will share them and we will discuss them at the next meeting. Does
Excellent.
Anybody have any objection to that?
Nope.
Okay.
I
fine.
don't. I can't speak for Dr. Sylvia.
No, that's fine. Okay. So the floor is yours, Barry, for as much as you need.
Good night, Jessica.
Good night, Jess.
Thank you.
Can I just?
Good night.
This is the Waltons. Anna, were you going to put the slides up?
Good night, Jeff.
March 7th. This thing's been kicked down the road since March 7th. Barry, just noticed this thing's been kicked down the road since March 7th.
2010. Barry said he's just going to change mid to final.
Right.
All right, while Anna is finding the slide to put up, I'll start off. I believe you have it in your package.
Right.
You've had it in your package.
This is our third
For those
time.
of us, maybe Steve has only seen it once, but everybody else has seen it a number of times.
Mike.
Mike, I'm sorry.
It's been so long he forgot your name.
Who's Steve?
I must know a Steve Flaherty because I keep wanting to call him Steve. The first one is under student performance. Student performance is actually broken into 2 distinct parts. And the first part has to do with the RTI implementation.
The
If-
first part is, can you go up one slide?
All right, that she had.
Go up one slide, Anna. That one.
Yes, thank you. So, the first one is based on the assessment of need and district readiness and resulting design. The district will provide training for all educators and administrators, a rollout, a response to intervention framework for ELA and K-6, and assess its effectiveness during the rollout. This is also actually part of the RTI training and implementation, but the rollout.
Right, just focus on the definition of it and the progress. You don't need to read the action and the targets.
So, in the red, that would have been the SMART goal. And the action we're talking about, just, you should talk about the action
Progress,
and the...
progress.
Progress, okay. So, we have full implementation that the grade 3 teachers have all been trained, and they've gone through their coaching part. Grade 2 and 4, training has been finished, and our coaching has begun. And currently, grade K and 1 teachers are being trained through that 36-hour course. And their coaching will occur in the fall of 2012. And grade 5 and 6, the cohort 4, will have their training this summer, the week of June 18th through the 22nd, and their coaching will also be in the fall of 2012. So by the end of the fall of 2012, all teachers K through 6 will have had the 36-hour course, and we will have had a trainer in their classes coaching them, observing them, and then giving them feedback on what they see.
Yes or no question. Would it surprise you to hear that a high school is doing RTI?
No, it would not surprise me.
No.
Go ahead.
No comments. No. No, because then it'll open up their, no.
We're on the,
Tell us about it, Jeff.
I'm now on my second slide, which should start off with Desi, I believe. Maybe go up back one, you know. Maybe it was my printing.
All right, we have it in our packet.
Based on assessment needs, of
Two
needs?
more down, 2 more back.
2 more down?
Yeah, 2 more back.
Oh, you
Now we're going the wrong way.
I'm at,
Going back.
on the sidebar, it says RTI training and implementation.
You're going up?
Yep.
Measures, it starts with DESI.
Go
The
one
slide's
more.
not there.
Oh, there we go,
There it is.
right there, thank you. So, the readiness checklist has been completed. Training evaluation tool, completed at the end of each cohort training, so that we have 2 of them completed, the third one will be completed when the training is finished. The essential components integrity rubric completed only by cohort 1 as of this date. We will shortly have for the second cohort, and by the end of the year, we'll do third cohort. The checklist of observable progress during RTI full implementation has been completed. The results from the staff survey is part of the school, that will be part of the school improvement plan. Okay, this is, this is the next one. I maybe have confused myself here. No, different, all right. Same,
Yeah,
basic
covered.
SMART goal, but this is talking about Title I funds being reallocated for our interventionists. It was implemented at the beginning of the fall of 2012.
Excuse me, wrong slide. That's it.
Nope, go back.
All right, so this
Next one.
will be implemented in the fall of 2012. And the special education staff schedules have been readjusted. That has been completed for them to give Tier 3 instruction.
Next slide.
This is the one with
I'll help.
both elementary schools. With the progress monitoring tools, this has to do with Inform, and this is in progress, where we have bought the software, we are training the people, and we are in the process of getting the assessments into Inform. That will continue over the summer and then into next fall. And again, we talk about Inform in the next one, utilizing an intervention block and learning centers. Both elementary schools will provide enrichment and challenge activities. Those are occurring during intervention blocks currently. And we had additional training on March 13th and 14th. For a number of people, including the principals, speech and language assistants, and occupational therapists assistants. The 80-15-5 fidelity, work in progress. The directors and I feel that this is the challenge of being successful. We continue to work on instructional strategies, pacing, scope, and sequence, so that we can get to this point. We are not there. It is something that we feel is one of our challenges, and we need to have the time to continue to work on this. Again, it's the challenge. We're working on it. It's a work in progress. provide a system of integrated programs. This is more of the curriculum part. The, all right, walkthroughs. These are happening at least once per month. It is in progress because it continues every month through the entire year. The new Inform software, all of the training has been completed up to this point. The implementation of the literacy ELA scope and sequence in progress. Professional development has been added in reading and writing with informational text. This is going to be through May 7th. The district leadership cabinet during October to decide the data to include into Inform. That has been completed. The evaluation subcommittee continues to meet, and the process, in my opinion, has slowed down because of political pressure from the MTA. And but those meetings, we have a meeting scheduled the first week in May, I believe, where we will see where we're at and what our next steps will be, which may be bringing the negotiating committees back with legal support to push it to the next level.
We have the leverage.
Yes. In progress consultant scheduled to continue working with ILs. That is the person from the consulting firm RBT. They have been in district. They have been working with our instructional leaders and our department heads to help them with their evaluations and writing. Technology. Implement integrated technology instruction, learning and content subjects through the use of iPads. This is something that has been in progress. iPads will be integrated into 8 classrooms. In progress meeting on April 5th to begin writing the recommendations. I have not received that report yet. That will be part of my final, that I will bring a report. In fact, I'm hoping to have that committee actually come and present, I believe, at the next meeting, but I
Good.
have to check with Terry
Good.
on that.
Would you note that, Michelle, please?
Sure. I got it. iPads.
Next meeting.
I have to say, the consultant has been calling me regularly, and I'm not getting back to him because I don't see where we have the resources to increase this experiment. But once we see the recommendations, then we can put it on the priority list of where it belongs. So, and what we do with the ones that we have, whether they go into one grade level or, I mean, that is a discussion we have to have. But I want to hear from the teachers and have them report to you. Technology, again, point of contact to be established in each school, completed. Each area of the website will be assigned responsible, in progress. Add social networking functionality, that was completed. Form a technology committee to do long-term plan, delayed until next year because of other things that needed to be done with the tech plan. One of the things, and I don't even believe I have it on here, is that we've just hired a consultant to come in and work with our tech department as far as diagnosing the difficulties that we have as far as capacity. So beyond the machinery that are in classrooms, we're talking about the pipe that comes in, and having the Comcast being what was given to us by free to bring in the way to get to the internet is just too slow. And so we're gonna be trying some different things with FiOS to see if we can bring in a faster dedicated line that may do that. We also have issues about the way the network is designed that is being looked at. The person just in asking questions has already diagnosed one particular thing that was probably slowing the network down, so.
Did you say it was free? The one from Comcast?
Yes, because school systems get, like you get at home, but we get it for free into the schools.
Oh, wow.
The trouble is, it just, particularly at the high school and middle school with all of the users and the amount of bandwidth that is used, it hasn't been enough. So, wireless feasibility study. That is in progress. We have done it. I'm waiting for the report. And that's something that Ms. DiFilippo was working on for me. The survey developed in progress. We did put out a survey for all of the staff about the network and about technology. Waiting to get that back, and that will be part of the report as well. And a committee of teachers, grade K through 12, to develop the tech literacy benchmarks and where they fit, not as a separate curriculum, but embedded within our existing curriculum. That has been formed. They are working. It is in progress. The next one, under community, is actually a tech thing because it says expansion of Power School to elementary progress reports. So progress reports now are done in Power School by elementary. But the next thing to do is to get the teachers to be able to put in a list of assignments so parents can see them. And so that's in the planning stage at this particular moment. Involve stakeholders in review of programs through our bullying committee met, talked about this, re-looked at it, so that has been completed. The school improvement template group met to discuss that. That is in progress. The district review by DESE. It's in progress because they did the review, but we don't have the report. So that, if we thought we had a long meeting about NEASC, we're going to have a separate meeting when that report comes back. And I'm sure many of the same issues will be brought up in that report that we heard in NEASC. It will just be another independent agency to underline for us what we need to work on. Community involved stakeholders in review of programs, procedures, conditions of school effectiveness tool implemented K-8 schools for 3 indicators. That has been completed in each of those schools. And that was with the help of our DSAC people from the state.
Really?
Yes.
Nice to know.
Promote global education initiatives and support the involvement of community members and organizations. The China program in progress, but we did the global education team during their vacation week. A group of students, about 10 students, met at one of our teachers' homes at 9:30 at night and Skyped with me in China. While I was there, it was 9:30 in the morning, with about 40 Chinese students. It went very well. The Chinese students, using their English that they learned in school, were able to talk to our students and ask them questions about American culture and so forth, and our students asked them questions. We hope that was the first of many of these kind of events, as well as developing a sister city kind of format like we have with Cape Verde, so that some of their teachers and students will come and visit Wareham and experience what a city of 25,000 feels like versus where they come from, which is 7 million people in their city. And the smog level is unbelievable. The first thing I appreciated when I got off the plane was clean air. So there are a lot of differences, a lot of similarities. So this is an ongoing project, but we've, I think we've started it, and it's come off to a nice start. And next October, I hope to host Mr. Yang, the principal of the school. So that is ongoing. That global education celebration was held here at the middle school. Many of you attended, so that is completed. Our continuation of the support of the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee is completed. Conversations with the superintendent's TV show in progress. Many of you might have saw that we did have one before town meeting that talked about the debt exclusions and so forth. I had Mr. Palladino and Mrs. Siemens as guests talking about both the need for the Minot project as well as the high school roof. The newsletter was at town meeting and was distributed. And there will be another one before the end of the year, hopefully, or maybe before the election.
Bingo.
And meeting with community groups, school councils, PTAs, ongoing. I have been, as well as Mr. Sweat, have been to a lot of school council meetings, PTA meetings, and will continue to do those events to talk about the needs of the system and what parents can do. Resources, district facility and space needs study, that is on the agenda but may not be got to this evening. Developed, the RFI was completed. We went through the designer selection process. All we need to do is to actually award the contract and then get the work done. The implement the safe, Be Safe program, completed. You saw Anna's presentation at a school board meeting. The policy review committee added the emergency closing policy to their schedule, so that was something that we did and is completed. The collaboration with youth sports organizations and community organizations, in progress, but some of them we've made a lot of progress. Anna was telling me, I have on here, the dugouts and bleachers have been completed at Deacon's with the help of volunteers as well as the gatemen.
And Home Depot.
Thank you.
And our junior varsity baseball team did a fabulous job that same day of the Deacon's playground construction, painted everything. Put up fences, it was really a great thing to watch.
The Minot statement of interest has been accepted, and we are in the process of doing all the paperwork to get to the next step, which is to have, if we get to the election and we get our $575,000, then they will sign off on a statement of interest on our being able to do the feasibility study. So there are 3 levels of signatures that we discussed, both John Foster and I today, with the Mass School Building Authority. As you can see, there are many initiatives ongoing, and as superintendent, these 4 areas, starting with student achievement, technology,
One second.
community.
Christian, if you want to redirect the camera, we're finished with the slides.
I got you on the way.
Fine, thank you.
So as superintendent, looking at student achievement and technology, community, and resources still is where I am putting our goals and working on them. but as you can see, there are multiple steps in each one of these. And it's a K through 12 approach. I get an awful lot of help by my 3 directors in all of these, and there are new things that continuously arise that we need to work on. So, we had somebody from what organization came about our asbestos report?
That was it's a Mass Department of Environmental Protection.
Thank you. So that now has risen to the top of Anna's list of things that she needs to work on, because the company that we had used to do our asbestos that you have to do every 3 years evidently didn't do as great a job as they should have, and the state is checking on the work of various companies. So, again, our efforts are directed where they need to be at a particular time, as well as trying to keep look at the whole district. We have spent a lot of time, and we are not quite there yet, of working with where we are in our current initiatives and what they're trying to accomplish, and what we need to do to make sure that they are implemented 100% so that we get the outcome that we want before we begin something else. And I think the group that were here from the state, when they did their end report, before they put anything in writing, they just gave us their brief assessment from what they saw, and they said the initiatives that we are working on are the right initiatives, and they just hope that we can have the resources and time to continue them to full implementation so that we get where we need to go. And you can't just quickly move to a new area because it's the flavor of the month, so to speak. You have to stay focused on where you're going. And like our technology, it's been a long haul. We first redid all of the servers. Now we're diagnosing the problems about, to make sure that our bandwidth is going to work. Then we have to look at wireless before we make decisions about, iPads all around and everything else. So, there are multiple steps in these processes that sometimes take longer than we would like. But we're heading in the right direction, and like I say, this is a mid-cycle goals. It's just a look at where we are. Please send your comments to Mr. Sweat, who will come in and talk with me, and then we can discuss how we want to have a further conversation about them when there's more time.
Comments and questions would be fine. Thank you. Let me just quickly skip to committee assignments. I will tell you that I reluctantly left myself off of these committee assignments because I candidly feel that I should be available to pitch in whenever someone cannot make a committee meeting, which I know is going to, for a variety of reasons, occur. It's not because I don't have the time, and it's not because I don't have the interest, but I know many of you, all of you, do have the interest. I hope you have the time. To the extent that you don't have the time, then I request that you let me know when you can't make a meeting, and I will fill in for you. I would obviously like to be there, but that would be 3 people at the meeting, and that wouldn't be appropriate. So, with that said, there are 2 active superintendent advisory committees. One is curriculum and technology. There does not need to be a chair for the advisory committees, so I'd like Cliff and Rhonda to handle curriculum and technology. Note that I've added technology to curriculum because I think it's an indispensable part of that. In fact, it's one of my goals to integrate curriculum and technology over the next 3 years. So please keep us informed, and if either Cliff or Rhonda can't make a meeting that Barry sets up, I will be there in your place.
Cliff, I'll take care of the technology piece, okay?
Thank you very much, Rhonda. I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm putting on you to take care of the curriculum piece, so.
You guys finished? On budget, I'd like Ken and Mike to handle that with Barry. I don't think, I suspect that Barry will not schedule a meeting with respect to FY14 for a while. Until we get to FY14, for continuity's sake, Ken and I will handle that, because I don't think it's fair to you to ask you to do that. For the policy committee, which is an actual subcommittee of this committee, I'd like Cliff to take over as chair and Mike to join Cliff. Also, no one had a strong interest in taking my place on Cape Cod Collaborative, which meets about monthly in Osterville, so I will continue in that role. If anybody would like to take that place, I'm more than happy to give it up after 3 years. But I guess since I now know
They
how...
meet on Wednesday?
Yes.
Wednesdays?
It's always inconvenient. It's almost always inconvenient, but whatever. So I will continue to keep up with the Cape Cod Collaborative. And finally, the VIPs.
Yes.
I would like you and Ken to make a recommendation to this committee as to whether you would like to formally make that a part of the school committee's function. And we'll be happy to take your report and see how it goes.
I like a comment, if possible, from the superintendent on that recommendation.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, with Mr. Luzon, have had some conversations about some of our grants, and through student services and through Title I, I believe, there was another grant, there is the possibility for parent involvement, and where we may be able to take care of some of what we were talking about, particularly at the 2 elementary schools, having a start of a parent, I think is what we were talking about. And the middle school.
So can we do...
Perhaps maybe you and Rhonda could get together so that you could bring her up to speed on it.
Does this need to be discussed tonight?
No, but I think
Right.
that they
So we
need to
can
talk.
come back to tell you whether a
Exactly.
recommendation would
Right,
do it.
exactly.
But I'm having a lot of offline conversations, so let's definitely, because
And
I'm
that's
waiting
great.
until after town meeting and all of that to even start these conversations again, so
That's
yeah.
perfectly
let's-
fine. Just keep Ken in the loop if you would. Okay? And lastly, I just want to say that there's a part of me that feels like I should apologize for the length of these meetings, but there's another part of me that says, with maybe 10 minutes of digression, I don't think any of this was not constructive, and I just philosophically am not about to cut people off when the subject is as important in this particular case as NEAS. So frankly, I'm going to take a hard look with our superintendent at the meeting schedule over the next 12 months because I frankly just think we need some more time. I would like to actually finish at 9:30 rather than at 10:30, and we just may need more nights, especially since, Michelle was so nasty. I talked about adding something to the next meeting, and she gave me this look that said, "Are you kidding me? What planet are you from?" So I'm trying to keep our parliamentarian happy over there, as well as perhaps she'd actually like to go home some nights. So I'm going to, in all candor, I'm going to take a hard look at the meeting schedule, and we may need to just incorporate a few more meetings.
Is there an option to go a little earlier, like at 6?
Well, I would be perfectly fine going at 6, except for 2 reasons. One is, the most important one is, I'm not sure that every other member here could make it by 6, but I'd be happy to take that. And the other reason is, that means that where I'm sometimes able to go to the Cape Cod Collaborative meetings for an hour, I assure you the director is very appreciative of this because he has trouble getting a quorum at times. That would mean I literally couldn't go because they all start at 5. So how do people feel about starting earlier at times?
That's just going to make our meetings go from 6 to 10.
Right. Now, go and look at the agenda and stuff like that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would rather have more meetings, and because everybody has a busy day the next day, I'd rather meet 3 times a month if it was needed to have. Sure, the meeting.
That's my feeling, so unless people feel strongly, I sense a
sure
dissenting voice over here.
Well, I'm sure if my wife was here, she'd have something to say, but I'm here to do what I gotta do. I mean, yeah.
You know, you're the rookie anyway, you only get, just kidding. I realize either way, it's time.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about meeting literally every week, obviously. So it's just, 2 or 3 meetings added over the course of an entire year might make all the difference, and that's what I'm going to be looking at.
And I just to say one thing about that is I do think that there is a little bit of work that we could do around time management. And so as your vice chair, I think I will help with that a little bit. And it's not, I'm absolutely guilty of this, but I think sometimes points are made more than once, and so maybe I agree, let's not cut anybody off, but I think that there is a little bit of self-reflection and time management that we can do to maybe cut down a little bit on the time, and that's my opinion, not anybody else's, but I will help by bringing in my son's teacher clock. It has a red thing and then it dings.
I think that's fair, but if I was the superintendent, and if I heard a similar or maybe even a redundant comment from 3 members of the committee as compared to 1, I would take it that much more seriously. So I think sometimes hearing it more than one time matters in terms of the management of the district.
Okay.
But your point is well taken. It's a hard balance to achieve.
I think the key to it is agenda management, and if we need another day during the month, then we have to have another day during the month. But I think that the only way they're going to solve this is agenda management. I mean, I think that at some point in time, we've got to just cut down on the number of items on the agenda for the day.
Exactly. I agree.
We only had 3 items, so that's one.
I know. Well, we knew one was going to be pretty lengthy.
I'll take a motion.
Could I ask one question?
And we
Yes,
started
wait a
another
minute.
meeting.
So we don't get in trouble over here.
Just one quick question. When you reassigned on the policy,
Yes.
does that take effect after the school year? Because we have like one more meeting that we need to wrap up the school year. Do you know what I mean? Instead of starting
If
2 new
Rhonda
members.
doesn't have a problem finishing off the year, I certainly would.
I think it's the right thing to do. We
I
have a
do
lot of
too.
policies that we've pushed. Talk about agenda management. We've pushed more policies than I think anybody in the
I do
past.
too.
So
I'll leave it to the president and
moved.
future chairs to, that's fine.
Okay.
No problem.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.